Guess what I have? It's in my basement. Well, I was gonna say, not cold, but I know. Water, fiber. I pulled a half-mile of fiber today through all my conduits.
How's it doing that when the recording's paused? Because it's on YouTube?
I don't know, Terry. You're asking the worst person in the world. Hi, Theo.
Yeah, well, so when you sent her presentation, I printed it out. It's that
This
file
from
down
Lynn?
there.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah, there's a couple other things there too. She sent it a little while ago, but I figured you might rather look at it than look up at the TV.
Yeah, she sent it to me last week. Comments. Wow. Fancy, fancy. IBM. Oh, the Mecca. PowerPoint's a fundamental skill now. You must have it. My skills are completely eroded.
I thought they were,
Since I
they
retired.
were getting passe, no? Well, I took a hint from you and I threw away the agenda and just kept a copy with the notes on it. I was forever flipping back and forth. I said, that was a simple solution. Welcome, Jeff. If you can hear
I
us.
don't have, I don't know what you mean. You mean the list?
Yep, I'm here.
How you doing?
I'm doing a lot better than I was. I can tell you that.
Feeling better?
Yeah.
Good. You look better. Not that you look.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last meeting, you looked a little loopy.
I may have been, I'm not sure.
So that I come here and do your meeting. But login information.
Yeah,
Catherine can do
I
it.
think so. I think somebody can do it as long as we can get it on.
Brian? Good. Getting busy out there. Grass growing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I'm in my third week. Because we are meeting here.
Yeah,
Does the no mow May movement affect you at all?
Not at all. It's more of the water on the ground, so it makes it look like.
Well, what do you have in mind?
Well, if we have to send it out soon, because we're meeting here,
Yep,
but the Zoom link is on and make it available, as some people have said, rightly so, that anybody in the community can see it. I'm gonna use Zoom link.
so do you have someone that can run this?
See that, no.
Because I'm not available tomorrow night, and Penny's not available tomorrow night.
All right, well,
Does Catherine come to your meetings?
she usually does, yes. Is she good at
I'm
that?
sure, well, she's
She's good.
really good, yeah.
Okay.
Someone probably have to show
Right, she'd have to come see how it's set up and then,
it. Sometime tomorrow.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
I guess the laptop would be okay here until the morning when I can take it back to the
so it would
office.
be, okay, so the laptop would be here.
Unless she brought her, I mean,
well,
Let's just say if I come in a little early and we get it set up, because our meetings are fine.
yeah, no, more than a little early. I'm leaving at 5 tomorrow, on the dot.
Gotcha. What time would you like me here tomorrow?
If you could come, I don't know, sometime 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I might can show you how to set it up and will the laptop be okay here in this room until morning? No, it's gonna,
So, I mean, it gets locked, you won't be able to hear.
yep, so that'll be
I
fine.
mean, we leave the yaw over there, I mean, you know.
So then just shut everything down at the end.
I don't think you want to do it every night forever.
No,
No, so in other words, if I'm here by 3,
Do you have a member that wants to participate or more that wants to participate remotely?
that was why I sent you that email.
Yeah.
Because nobody's asked to do
Because
that.
if no member is participating remotely, you don't have to do it by Zoom.
well, what about Sally?
Well, she's not a member.
She's not a member.
No, but do you expect her to? want
Well, and I
to-
mean, I'm very happy to do it, you just have to get. into
I mean, it isn't really difficult.
No, it is, and I mean, I run Zoom meetings on my own account all the time.
It's just a matter of plugging these things into the laptop and.
Yeah. Well, mine's just on my laptop, but getting it, I mean, as far as the Zoom part of it, the people out here don't need to. I mean, they're gonna be in the same room.
Right, but if you're gonna have Zoom, you might as well do this if you're here, and it's just a matter of plugging
Well,
this in.
that would be great, and so, all right, so I will. In fact, I put some backup, my husband's really good at computers, so maybe I can get him.
Well, I mean, if you know Zoom, if you know how to run a Zoom
I know
meeting,
how to run a Zoom meeting.
then you'd be fine, because, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory how it's set up.
Mhm.
Who are you?
All right,
I survived.
Come on.
Good evening.
I was Astro.
What's that?
I was Astro. What does that seem like an eternity ago now?
That was. That was. Can I leave again?
I don't care. You're just gonna take that up with your wife?
I don't know if I really want to go anywhere at this point.
Finally starting to get a decent days here.
You wouldn't know it offshore. I'm killing it.
Yeah.
You guys have done early today.
Yeah, we got done at middle of the afternoon because we started to skip.
Whoops. Whoops.
An unplanned
We
event.
we were almost done anyhow, but we had it tied to the side of the boat and I was going for another line there, and I was swamped it. So besides it, oh, that's not good. So I had to run that over to Jeff's ring to get it rinsed. Always something.
Yep.
Well, it had a motor on it.
What's that?
It have a motor on it?
Yeah, oh yeah, they had 15 horsepower. Yeah, otherwise, we didn't go rescue the oars, but no, and we needed it for tomorrow, so Cole went home and got his outboard. On my school, so back in business.
Oh, good.
Are you here for any particular reason tonight, or?
I just thought it might be helpful if I was here, if you were going to discuss the, legal defense.
Okay.
Other than that, no, I'd like to go home watch hockey game at 7 o'clock.
I kind of assumed that, but
Just if I can add anything to it.
well, I told Pam and John that if they come, since she gets up at 2:30 in the morning, I would definitely take her for a ride.
2:30. And I woke up at 2:15 this morning, never really went back to sleep, so.
But she does that every day, though.
Oh,
Hi, how you doing?
Well, I survived.
Well, that's always a good sign.
Wasn't too bad.
I'm in favor of survival as a general principle.
I slept for a week though.
Oh,
That sounds really, really, really
Yeah,
nice.
that actually doesn't sound that unappealing, does it?
Yeah, except for what you have to catch up on after a week
Yeah,
of
I
sleeping.
suppose.
Yeah.
Hi, Cliff.
Walter, how are you?
Very well.
Rip Van Winkle,
I have one.
You have one. John, you have one too, print out?
huh? I do. I don't think, did Jeff get one?
It was
I
just
got
emailed.
it.
It was
I can,
Check your email, Jeff.
Did
You
you
have
get
it
something
already?
that looks like that? Came in the last second?
Yeah.
You should have something from Lynn Canavan.
I probably won't have time to look at it while I'm typing and stuff, so I'll just kind of keep my eye out there.
Just I have stress.
But I'll take a copy of it. Like when I print my minutes, I can really look.
There you
at it. Thank you.
You get it, Jeff? Just came in, I guess, a few minutes ago. I didn't even see it.
She'll probably ask to share.
Yeah, I've got it.
No, ask to share screen.
Oh, gosh, only 9 minutes off. Yeah, I'm getting lost in revisions and reversions and which one is which is which. was much easier when we didn't have the computers where you could change them.
Somebody to do the hiring plan.
Any luck in finding a road commissioner yet?
Mhm.
Any luck in finding a road commissioner?
Well, we really haven't had a conversation about what we're gonna do, and we're in the middle of a bunch of different little projects right now, so, I'm sort of doing it on.
Yeah, yeah, so it's happening more work for you.
Well, it is, but I'd like to get these projects that we're kind of in the middle of, and we're literally in the middle of them, and we're gonna start replacing some colors. Actually, I called Casey,
I think he wrote it out.
just wanted to just let him know, next
I have a-
Monday, we're gonna close that section of Island Road from 73 to the intersection down by Huey Downs,
From 73 to,
to the Huey Downs. down-
okay, so you just go down.
Down the village, right, because there's two colors there, going place, it's just a lot quicker, cheap and easy if you can close the road and just rip them out, and put a whole one back in, rather
Oh,
than
yeah.
keep it one lane, you know,
Oh, people love those trucks rolling through the village.
just one day, 2 days,
Oh, what days?
Monday and Tuesday, weather permitting, and if everybody shows up.
And he's good at it.
The weather part?
No, he's good at the road commission.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the question's gonna be
You
whether
don't
he's
wanna
gonna
be-
resign.
No.
You don't want to be really good at it, you know.
Truth be known, I'd rather give this job up.
That makes sense, John.
I like birds in the bird pile out back.
I'll let Casey know.
I talked.
Oh, you already
I
did.
And Terry, I asked Terry to put something on the listserv and the website, but I figured some of the young.
First thing in the morning. so-
Yeah. And I called, Travis over it. What is it now?
Oh, yeah, we still call it that.
But then there's two more, a father, up, almost up near your parking lot, there's one,
Mm-hmm.
which will have to be done half of the time, and that'll cause a few. Wait.
Then England, all through town, there's plenty of stuff. You know,
Too bad. It's too bad you
That's
can't find a way to pop that damn thing on.
I have fiber in my basement, Cliff.
Really? Is it wizard? I mean, does it just-
Electronics tomorrow. But they pulled a half a mile of cable today.
Oh, they did it down Spruce Ave as well. I don't know if it's live yet, though.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
Well,
I'll let you know tomorrow afternoon.
has anybody noticed how much weight it's added to the telephone line? They're all sagging all over the place, and I assume that's gotta be from the fiber being wrapped to the.
I don't know, but it's going down, towards the headlands. There's a cable there, it's almost down to the road,
By, going down to JD.
so going down to J.
Oh, yeah, that's always been low, but now it's
Yeah,
even
now it's
lower.
even lower.
You can reach up and touch
Just
it.
about, I don't recommend that.
Huh?
I don't recommend that, by the way.
Touching it?
Yeah,
Oh, it's telephone, not electric,
you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
but I'm not gonna jump up and grab
I'll
it.
call you collect if it's not.
I'm not gonna jump up and grab it to find out.
Walter, you're getting connected up early then? You said it's live.
Yeah, that's what they told Lynn. All the boxes, are ready to go, from what I understand.
We haven't seen anything in the mail, like, come give us your money.
No, Spectrum has sent you notices.
Oh, yeah.
Listen how wonderful we are. You don't want those nasty, you don't want that nasty stuff. We're wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they say they made your speed faster?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. More power, less cost.
It's magic.
Yeah, just all you need is a little company.
And
I'll go with the other one, even if they're more expensive. I'm so sick of Spectrum.
Yeah.
the conduit they pulled it through was the empty one that I never ran cable through.
Are you Ted, by the way?
$15,000.
Yeah, it was Time Warner one at 10
Yeah,
back in the day.
it was 13 to take it down to Merchant's Landing.
Okay, we're gonna go live.
Still have.
That one's good, John.
Still have 4 minutes. Does anybody know who non-geotech? Hmm?
Nancy Dawson. Is this posting to YouTube?
And was there a copy of the May 4th minutes in the packet?
No, I sent them out to you Friday.
Okay, so I wasn't missing it.
No, it was,
Okay. I did get them on the email, but when I looked in the packet, I didn't see them.
no. Packet was Thursday.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured, but nowadays I'm like, where did I lose that? Boy, look at this. Watch as slower it goes. Okay, 6 o'clock. I'm gonna call this meeting of the select board to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Terry?
Yes, I have a donation for cemetery maintenance. Coastal Opportunities request for a donation and under town warrant article to add the tax discount article.
Okay, we can take that up on the other on B. Remind me when we get there. I'd like to add draft planning board bylaws that we received from amendments that we received from Herb Curtis. Walter, anything? Nope. Jeff, anything? Okay, we have 2 people on what do you call this? Zoom. One is Nangio 10, and could I ask that person to identify who Nangio 10 is for the minutes? Maybe not there. And I assume Michael Dumont is Michael Dumont. Oh,
Yes, it's both of us, actually.
okay, that helps. So Nangio 10,
You have some waiting, Terry. There's someone waiting.
Yep, Lynn just got there.
okay, I guess Nangio 10 is not here with us. and Lynn Kavanaugh. Welcome, Lynn. Okay, I am gonna jump around a little bit to accommodate folks, but let's start off with minutes of April 6th, 12th, 25th, and May 4th. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of April 6th, 12th, 25th, and May 4th.
Is there a second?
Second,
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Aye, John. Okay. Old business, we're gonna get a little update from our ad hoc technology committee. I see Cliff is here and Lynn, 2 of the 3 members. I will turn it over to for Lynn. Lynn, okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to take it over. I know that Cliff is there in person. So Cliff, if you would prefer to do it in person, that's fine too, but I'm prepared to do it here.
Why don't you do it then, since it's your work product?
Okay, let me go ahead and host. Terry, can you enable the screen sharing, please?
I'm gonna make you co-host or host.
Oh, Ann just arrived, the 3rd member of the committee. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Sorry to be late.
Okay.
Okay. Great. I am sharing my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
All right, let's go here to the beginning. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present tonight. I'm Lynn Canavan, and I'm a committee member of the South Thomaston Technology Committee, and along with Dr. Clifford Dasco and Ann Just, and our select board liaison is Walter Reitz, who I don't know if he's there today or not. But anyways, this is a presentation just to give you a quick summary of the work that we've done over the last several months and our recommendations to this committee for the initial project that we were tasked to do. And so today's agenda is just a little bit background on the committee, just, why we were formed, a little bit on the broadband connectivity initiative, and then recommendations and next steps. And please, this is an interactive discussion. So at any point, please interrupt and, feel free to chime in with questions and additional commentary as well from my committee members. We are an ad hoc town committee that was formed in April of 2021, so just about a year ago. And Dr. Cliff Dasco, he was the original member, and he reached out to Ann, and I raised my hand as well for our respective backgrounds and interest in working on, in particular, the broadband initiative, which is something of personal interest to all of us. The board did appoint Walter to be our official liaison about mid-year last year as well. And our mission statement, as presented and approved by the select board, is that the ad hoc technology committee is charged with discovering and evaluating and other technologies that could be a benefit to the town and reporting these to the select board in a timely fashion. So that's what we set out to do. And in particular, we were looking at broadband for the first thing. And again, we are coming together and presenting as citizens of the town. We all own property in South Thomaston, and we all are actively interested in using technology to enrich the lives of both ourselves, our families, as well as our neighbors. We think that there's a lot of good that can be done through technology, and that's why we came together. And so in particular, the task that we had was to look at the Mid-Coast area, different things going on in the Mid-Coast area, presenting a viewpoint of the town, doing some research, doing some and making some recommendations and documenting things that are happening. So those are the tasks that we were that we initially set out to do. Any so far? Okay, I'll assume that means none. So the big one, and the reason that we came together, was the Mid-Coast Internet Development Corporation, the MDIC, and I'll give some background on that. And as part of that, the select board did hire Axiom to do a feasibility study for the town of South Thomaston in terms of whether we should be joining the MDIC. We looked at commercial options and we have some recommendations, and that's part of this presentation. So just to refresh everyone's memory and those not familiar with the MDIC, this is a nonprofit regional utility that was formed. Actually, it was formed in June 2021. However, there was a lot of work and precedence of work that was done before this, getting them to this point of being an incorporated entity. It's a group of Maine towns that came together to explore bringing high-speed internet, affordable high-speed internet to these towns. Camden Rockport took the initial early leading role in bringing this all together. Their select boards and and people within their towns, formed the original committees to bring it all together. The towns that were part of this included Camden, Hope, Lincolnville, Northport, Rockport, South Thomaston, and Thomaston. And then there were some, there was also Cushing that was asked to join, and some other local areas as well. But the original towns were those listed there. Again, those on the committee can embellish this with detail, but to cut to the chase, there was a lot of hope that there would be some federal funding that would be given to the MDIC to form a nonprofit utility to provide high-speed internet to the areas. And that was dealt a little bit of a setback in October when there was a request to use Knox County American Rescue Plan funds for this, and that was turned down. And so the board of the MIDC kind of went back to the drawing board to rethink this through. Rockport had committed hard funds to this, and the intention was for the initial year is to build it out in Rockport, Camden, and Thomaston. In early January 2022 of this year, we received word that they were moving in a different direction to focus the coverage on the larger towns, not the smaller ones, which kind of left us out of it. And so that was a little bit of a cause of concern. Let me keep going on this. So that's the state of the MIDC. In the meantime, we had commissioned this Axiom feasibility study. The town had approved $5,000 for the study to assess joining the MIDC. And their report concluded that it would cost money to participate, for the town to participate, that eventually there should be a positive cash flow, but there will be several years before that would actually happen. And that the town would still need to provide low income subsidies for the households that could not afford whatever the amount came to for that amount. The assumption is that we would be tapping into some public funding. And the report did caution that since there is coverage for a good deal of not the whole town, but since there is good coverage, even though it's expensive and private, we may not be able to get some of that federal funding. So there were some stipulations with it. We couldn't plan on accessing that funding. So the report again had some great details in terms of the benefits of being a public ownership of a utility such as that, as well as some of the disadvantages. And as part of that, they also assessed some of the private corporations, in particular Spectrum and Consolidated Communications Inc. Their report, which came out, said that they were unlikely. They didn't think that those utilities would be likely to work with us for a cost-effective type of a plan. However, at the same time, there was some actual work going on, which was to our benefit. So far. Okay, so let me just cut to the CCI, Consolidated Communications. They did present at a meeting which was open to the public, and they said that they had planned to roll out fiber optics to approximately 85% of our town and do it quickly. The remaining 8, and that is the part of the town that is covered by the Rockland Exchange. And then there was another 15% of the town that would not have access to this right now. It would come through the Thomaston Exchange, which was scheduled to come on at some point in the next 2 years or so. So they presented something and it got us all excited. First year pricing was very low with a very fast speed of per second for $75 a month with a $5 discount. So $70 a month for very high speed fiber optic connectivity. So just to quick update, they presented to us, I believe it was in about the March or April time, I think it was March timeframe. I have to tell you on a personal note, this is live today, and I actually had it hooked up to my cottage on Monday, and it is blazing fast. So it's actually a really good thing, and it's actually there. So I'm kind of excited about it. So this is a viable option for the town. It exists, it's fast, and it is available again to those 85% of the town that is covered through the Rockland Exchange. And there is a map somewhere that shows that what that coverage looks like. So the cons of this is that they have a reputation for poor customer service, and that came out during their public meeting. Some people have had challenges with them in the past, and we don't have any control over the cost. Again, this is a private company that we will not be able to influence, in contrast to if we had decided to join the MIDC, which would be the town's led, we would have control over that. There is a lag in delivering that 15% to the rest of the town. So again, we had set out when we started on looking at this project, we hope to get 100% of the town covered. And so at this point, the Consolidated Communications is offering 85% of the town. And so just to assess the other commercial coverage options, Spectrum is also here. Spectrum, some of us use them. They used to be called Time Warner, and before that, I'm sure they were called something else. But basically, they are here. They don't cover all areas of the town. They are considered to be an expensive option. I have heard ad hoc stories of people who have requested that they get hooked up to Spectrum in the past and have been charged as much as $10,000 to get the access to their homes. So it's very expensive to get it hooked up, and it's expensive to maintain but it's reliable and it's fast, although it's not as fast as the fiber optics. Consolidated Communications, I mentioned, is again, they're newly expanded. They're fast. They have aggressive pricing. Both vendors state that they have low income options. And I have a point on the next chart. Ann just had done some research. The Biden administration just announced an initiative working with the major utilities to get a very low cost internet to supplement through federal funding, so that it's no more than $30 a month for very low income housing, for very low income households. So that is something that we can explore. And it looks like from their documentation that both of these vendors will participate in that. So again, for South Thomaston, if there are households that qualify for this, they will have an option to have, to choose one of these options at a low cost. So that's the commercial options. I'm just going to finish up with the summary and the recommendations is that as a committee, we think that, we are recommending that CCI and Spectrum would be the high-speed internet delivery for the town versus joining continuing on with the MIDC, which, being a participant in that process, we have learned that the whole planning, rollout, and so forth, it's going to be costly. It's going to be time consuming, also going to be a lot of work. And it's going to be, so it's not an immediate option. This is a down the road option. And again, MIDC is now they're focused solely on the big towns. They're not really including us in that option. So even if we wanted to continue with them, I don't know how much they want us. So at some point down the road, we can consider joining them if they are established and so forth. We are not precluded from doing so, but right now we believe that we have two viable commercial options that will, and two commercial options, and there is affordability for those who need that option as well. The fact that Consolidated came in was a game changer because now you don't have that monopoly. Before, Spectrum was in there and most people, used Spectrum or didn't like Spectrum and didn't want to use them or whatever that was for Spectrum. But having two options, hopefully put them in check a little bit, because if one gets a little bit out of sync, somebody has an option to switch over to the other carrier. And again, there is that low income affordability. Again, the recommendation is that we really want to monitor what MIDC is doing, and at some point we can certainly opt to reevaluate if we should be joining that. So those are the summary and the recommendations of the initial work that we had set out to do. And let me just pause to see if there's commentary from my co-technology committee members or from the select board or anyone else on this call.
So Ann or Cliff first, anything you want to add?
No, I think that was complete.
Ann, anything you want to add? Is she there?
She's a little faster than her.
Ann, are you with us?
It looks like
Well-
she may no longer be on the call.
Okay. And then Walter, I defer to you as our board liaison to the technology committee.
Well, first of all, thank you, Cliff and Lynn, for all your time and effort and the good work. I do want to, one drawback that I don't think was pointed out is that the model of the MIDC, the public utility, was that it be open access so that any ISP could connect. Whereas with both Spectrum and Consolidated, you can use any ISP you want as long as it's theirs. So that was one of the selling points because it was a level playing. So that's a give up in going with their recommendations. But I support their recommendations.
Yeah.
To the extent that the fiber is in my basement right now.
Okay. I guess the next item then is, Ann, are you back with us?
Yeah, sorry. I dropped my phone.
Oh, is there anything you wanted to add to Lynn's presentation?
No, I only wanted to make everybody aware that Lynn and I met for about 5 minutes and she said, I've got this, and put together this terrific presentation. So just public kudos for that.
Thank you.
Well, I have a couple of comments. One is I think there were other issues with MDIC that we were having some difficulty working out with. So I'm, for one, and kind of pleased that this Consolidated sort of dropped out of the sky on us here. But I guess the big question is next steps for the technology committee. We sort of formed this committee, as I recall, around the MDIC effort. So do we want it, and it is, as Lynn said, an ad hoc committee. Do we want to keep this committee active? Or do we want to sort of terminate it? And if we do want to keep it active, what do we want it to do? I personally am in favor of keeping it active. I don't know how active that would be, but I guess I wonder if any of you have any thoughts on that. I'm not trying to make work for you, or if Walter or Jeff do. Cliff?
So that's an interesting question. And there are, now that we've assessed what the platform is going to be, one of the things that we could do going forward is to look at what we could do with it in community benefit. There are many technology applications that can be used for healthcare, for education, for screening purposes, for emergency notifications, a lot of stuff that you can use with a high degree of connectivity. Some of that work is actually underway right now. And I think it might be useful to keep the committee in existence for the purpose of assessing the technology's relevance to the town as the technology develops.
Okay. Lynn or Ann, do you want to chime in on that question? And I guess, are you willing to continue?
I'll speak for myself. I'm happy to continue, and I'm happy to, I think, again, one of the if you look at what our charter is, one of it is to look at some of the trends to make recommendations and do research and things like that too. And so I'm very happy to continue on with that. And if there is something in particular that we think the town should be looking at, or if we spot something that we think is really interesting to consider that would benefit citizens, that would be, sort of an ongoing effort that I'm happy to participate in.
Okay, and
I would be happy to continue. I think some of the things we could be doing would be making information about, for example, these low cost connectivity options well known, through handouts, through posters here or there, whatever. Because the trouble with grants like that is you have to know they're there to go for them, right? So I think publicizing some of these opportunities might fall within our purview. And I agree with both Lynn and Cliff about it's good to just have people keeping an eye on developments. So yeah, I'm for going forward.
Jeff, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I first of all, I want to say what a great presentation. I echo John's sentiment that I'm kind of relieved that we ended up with something better than MDIC. I had a lot of concerns with that, and I love the idea of this committee continuing. It seems we're always behind on technology. It's moving too fast for us old folks, and having somebody keeping an eye on it for the town, I think is a positive step and a forward-thinking step that we rarely find in our kind of business. So I really appreciate the idea of you guys continuing some of your efforts towards watching the horizon for what's coming and helping us get ahead of it.
Walter?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, for instance, every time we charter a new organization or a new organization forms, the first thing they want is a website. So at some point, we should probably be thinking about rationalizing how we're communicating within the town, what platforms to use. I'm not being critical of anybody's website, but at some point you want the unbridled proliferation not necessarily to happen because the technology is so readily available. I think also another thing that they might want to look at is, so there is Starlink and Amazon is about to do the same thing. So those are, I would say they're not as future-proof, to borrow Cliff's term, as fiber, but they're going to be viable alternatives to cable over time. So that's a technology to look at by someone. So just a couple things that kind of the committee could look at.
And I also think we don't want to forget that 15% of the town is not being covered by this.
Right.
And maybe we could, the committee could monitor that. Oh, could I suggest, I'm supportive of it. It sounds like all three of us are, so I don't know that we need to take any action to continue them because they exist. But I guess what I would like to see is a shift in the mission statement, perhaps not, that maybe can define some of the rules that were just discussed, and maybe the committee could actually work on that, and that might help think through where you want to go. Because I certainly can't tell you what you want. I know that. So, Cliff?
Just to add one more thing that's been a concern to me, and just in different contexts, is security and information and information transmission. Now of a non-participant working within the system. Recently, all of Russia yesterday was all their TV setups were hacked by Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Well, there is that. But I think that security and access to information and security of information transmission has to be something else that we have to be concerned with as we follow Walter's lead and rationalize websites and increase access to the web.
What I would suggest that the MMA rules and regs that just got issued, that the committee be given those to look at and comment. Our insurance provider has just dropped a very large, complicated set of compliance regarding the technology that we're going to have to adhere to. So be interested in your comments on that.
And I would be interested in continue, although I had problems with Midcoast Internet Development Corporation as constituted. I liked the idea of the public concept. I like the fact that, you know, there could be many different users on the pipeline. So I think continuing to monitor that is important. Although there's going to be some before I'd be willing to personally support joining that, but another night. So, okay, so why don't, do you guys want to get back to us, say in a couple meetings and maybe after town meeting with a list of potential tasks or revised mission statement or whatever you want to call it. Jeff, any final comments?
No, I think that's a good idea.
And also by then we'll have a new select board member, so to replace Walter. So
Just for clarification, did you want to report at the town meeting?
no, I don't. No, I
So
don't think
afterwards.
so. I don't. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the town meeting generally is,
Yeah,
you know, we try to stick to the warrant.
no, it's fine. I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah,
with the-
no, I thought back to the select board.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. You can stay with us or not, as you wish, on this beautiful evening. Dan is here and Ted Mailer is here, so I'm gonna take the correspondence item from up out of order, which is, where am I? On the back side. Which is 7, well, it doesn't have a letter, but the first item on the 7 is an email from Ted Mailer, who lives up near Wilson Construction. Ted has emailed Dan and Terry, I think 3 times, concerning the activities at Wilson Construction and their impact on the neighborhood. And since they have been emailed to Terry and Dan, I hadn't, and not to the Board of Selectmen, I hadn't asked Terry to put it on the agenda under correspondence because it wasn't mailed to us. But Terry informed me a couple of weeks ago that she felt that Ted was, in essence, by mailing it to us, mailing it to her, he was sort of mailing it to us in essence. So I felt that we needed to acknowledge that. I don't want this to turn into a public hearing on the situation, other than, but I do feel we need to respond to Mr. Mailer. I guess I'm just gonna lay out the way I see it at this point. I don't see that the board has any role, the select board has any role in this at this point. And I don't see that the planning board has any role in it at this point. I think whether or not someone is violating a permit or lack of a permit is a code enforcement officer's determination, not our determination, or the planning board for that matter. Having said that, with Dan being new, it's a complicated situation, 2 lots involved, 1 lot with a permit, 1 lot without, that the Wilson zone on either side of Bartlett Lane. The ordinance changed in the middle of the activities on July 1st. I would recommend, and I talked briefly to Dan about this, that we authorize Dan, and perhaps Jeff could join this conversation, to meet with our attorney and try to get a little guidance. With him being new, and this is a complicated situation, to get a little guidance on how we, as a town, or how Dan more specifically should approach this situation. And I guess I'd ask for your thoughts in support of that. So,
I support that.
Jeff, would you be?
Yeah,
also?
Yeah, I have no problem with that at all. I think it's probably a good way ahead. Having said that, I do know that whether it was appropriate or not, the planning board did step in to attempt to negotiate between the two parties. And I think there are some pending actions associated with that discussion that are probably going to happen before we end up getting back to anybody after we discuss with the attorney, because I think the deadline on that was the June meeting, June planning board meeting. So
And I'm aware of that. I understand that, and I think part of the issue here is Dan is very new, and it's a very complicated situation. The ordinance is complicated, so that's really why I'm advocating for this, because I think this is a situation that we need to get. We need to have our I's dotted and T's crossed. I don't know that we need a motion for that, although we certainly could have one, but, and Jeff, I would ask if you could participate, if Walter doesn't object. I don't think it's appropriate for the planning board chair to participate, but I do think might be appropriate for you to participate, because you have the historic knowledge of the ordinance changes, and I think that complicates the situation. So if you're willing to do that and you don't object.
I don't object at all. And I
Okay.
think if you want a motion, it should be that Dan and Jeff are authorized to engage with the attorney on this subject and seek guidance.
Okay, Jeff,
yeah, I second that. I support that.
further discussion? Did either Mr. Mailer or Dan want to add anything?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay. All right, and I don't see this as impeding, obviously, if the Wilsons choose to file a permit application, they're free to do that. That certainly is not the intent, is to impede that, so. Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Aye.
Aye, John, Walter, I guess we don't need to say our names. Okay, so, Terry, we can respond to Mr. Mailer. He's here, obviously, he heard what happened, but we can write him a note and tell him that the code officer's been authorized to get with our attorney and review this situation, and we'll see where it goes from there, based on her advice. What's that? Okay, did you want to stay just quickly for the, we can jump around a little and talk about the messy yard ordinance? Yeah. Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Let's take the Lobsterman ordinance out of order first, so that
Okay.
Bob has another commitment.
Except we're paying this guy, we're not paying him, but that's okay.
Well, you'd like to hear the messy yard ordinance, though.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah, that's a. Bob and I both want to hear that.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, and, all right, so we, under item B, review town meeting warrant, we have a bullet point on there to talk about, I thought it was on there, ordinance regulating the storage of solid waste and junk. And we have had a couple different renditions of this. I hope everybody has the latest rendition, which I'm gonna look for. I believe it's dated 5/3 at the top. Is everybody on that page? Yep. I have at this board's blessing or urging, I have been working on this with Kristen, and not too extensively, but I've been working on it, but in a past couple of things. So I have a couple of final comments on this that I would suggest. One is under 2, where it says, for the purpose of this ordinance, junk shall mean unusable or discarded or damaged household appliances, blah, 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 blah. I'd like to change that to unusable or discarded and remove the word damaged. And I'd also like to remove the word damaged in the last bullet point. And then when we define unusable, we define unusable as and damaged under 3 as meaning an item in its current condition does not function as intended at the time of manufacture. I'm reluctant to bring damaged into that because I think items can be damaged and can be repaired. So I'd like to change it to that. I think it simplifies that. I'd also like to add under D1, solid waste as defined above, even if contained in an enclosed structure or as required above in a container. I'd like to add those words in an enclosed structure or. And that basically is the section that says that if it's decomposed and emitting foul odors and gases, that it needs to be disposed of. And I don't care personally whether it's in a structure or not. And that's the problem we had down at Atwood a couple of years ago, where there was foul lobster bait in the structure, but it was permeating throughout the whole neighborhood. So I don't want to get back into that situation. Also, under the next bullet, there's a typo there. It says junk outside, it says junk stored outside of an enclosed container. I think that got messed up. I think that was supposed to read junk outside of an enclosed structure. It can't be, so it reads, it shall be unlawful to store any junk as defined above outside an enclosed structure, except as related to temporary storage of less than 30 days related to a building clean out, move, construction activity, or a yard sale lasting no more than 3 days. And then under E1, equipment, I'm almost done. It says equipment or gear used seasonally in agriculture or fishing, commercial activities, including but not limited to agricultural equipment, tractors and their attachments, backhoes, excavators, trailers, ladders, staging, lobster traps, nets, drags, and ropes are exempt from this. I'd like to add the word equipment or gear used seasonally or occasionally, because it might not be just seasonally. So, I mean, if I have staging, I might use it occasionally, but not necessarily seasonally. And then on the last one, it says for violations related to the accumulation of solid waste, the owner shall have, and solid waste again is defined as rubbish, trash, shall have 3 days from the date of written warning to remedy the violation. But for junk, this current ordinance says 15 days. I think that's too quick, and I would propose moving that to 30. And then with that, I guess I ask for your feedback. I can read the whole thing if people want. It's not that long, but I don't want to bore to death the meeting. I know this has been controversial in the past. But yeah. Would you like to
Yeah,
hear
the only
something?
question I got, did you talk to Kristen about the appeals process at all?
Yeah, that's all changed on that back page. There is no appeal process.
Okay, so now it just falls under the land use ordinance. Okay, that's perfect.
Basically, if you read the back, it just says if the violations are not remedied within the stated deadline, then the owner is assessed a $150 fine. And then for a second violation in the 1 year period, it's $250. And then third, $350. And then if the violations are not remedied by the deadline stated, then the CEO can recommend, the CEO can recommend, and the select board is granted the authority to pursue enforcement in court.
Okay,
So it really gives us some teeth. I mean, we're gonna have to spend money to enforce it in court, but
good.
so I don't know where you wanna,
So all your changes are fine.
okay,
Um,
I think they've strengthened it.
um, That was it.
Okay.
We covered the non-appeal process.
Yeah. Chris and I, not to complicate this, but we talked about one other thing. One strategy might be to put two, or you can't change an ordinance at town meeting, you can't amend it. So one strategy might be to put two ordinances on the warrant. One would be this one, which would cover trash, rubbish on one side, and then junk in the second silo, for lack of a better word. The second one would be, if that goes down to the feet, which it couldn't, this has been controversial before, we could have a second ordinance that just dealt with the trash. And that would at least give Dan, and that probably would pass. You know what I mean? I think it's hard to argue that people can keep their trash out in plastic bags forever. But, so we could, if the first one passed, then we could just basically ask town meeting to dismiss or defeat the second one. The only risk in that, I think, is it may weaken the chance of getting the whole ordinance passed. Because people will say, well, we can go down and do this lesser one. I don't know, thoughts on that?
We have a week or two. No, do we
No.
have time to noodle that around?
Well, it would just be a matter of pulling out the junk part.
Now I remember my question. Jeff mentioned the land use ordinance. So if this is attached to a part of the land use ordinance, we must have a public hearing.
Oh, we need a public hearing.
Okay.
It's an ordinance, yeah. And we can change it at the public hearing, although supposedly not substantially. But Jeff, any thoughts on that idea of having two?
Yeah, I'm not keen on doing the either or, one or the other. I mean, take it to the extreme, they both get approved. Now you've got an issue, so I just soon, yeah, I just soon go with the one. And just to, when we looked at this a couple years ago, Kristen told us that this was a land use ordinance. I was surprised by that, but while we were discussing the appellate processes and things, she said it was a land use ordinance, which I guess in the broader term of land use ordinances, it does fall under the some of the categories that are associated with land use ordinances. So it does need a public hearing, and I think without mentioning the appeals process that's in our land use ordinance would cover this if anybody so chose.
Yeah, and we can get, I think there's no question it requires a public hearing.
Yep.
And I think we want a public hearing, because I think when people read this, they may come up with some ideas to strengthen it. Just like you did when you said, well, what about the guy who sets up the plastic bags the day the haul is coming to pick them up? That's exempted now. I mean, that hadn't popped into my head, so okay. Dan, did you have anything? I know you looked at this, anything you wanted to add, or I know you felt this would give you some clear.
A little more clarity and teeth.
If it passed.
Yep.
Because the other way gets complicated through the state statutes. Okay, we ready to move on? So Dan, we're all set with it, unless you wanna join us off the clock now. Okay. Back to conservation. Consider the request of the Conservation Commission to appoint Sally Merchant and Wes Pratt associate members of the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission is recommending that we appoint Sally Merchant and Wes Pratt as associate members of the Conservation Commission. Is there a motion?
My personal preference is to not combine them, but
Okay.
So I move that Sally Merchant be appointed as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. I do have a question. The law and the ordinance says that they'll be appointed for a year. And it's almost, I hate the idea of getting appointments expiring all through the course of the year. So I think, and even when people are appointed for a year, it's never exactly a year. It's a year and a few days, or a year less than a couple of days. I'd like to appoint them with some term, maybe, June of 23 for one and June of 24 for the other. I mean, I think that's close enough to a year personally, rather than having, we got to remember next May, deal with this, or put it off to June, put their effective date off to June, which I prefer the former. But I didn't know if people wanted, because it says we can appoint them for terms of 1, 2, or 3 years, I believe. So I was going to ask Steve if somebody had any preference.
Worked out really well because since I sent you that memo about the 2 associate members, we've got 2 one-year members that are commissioners whose term is up in June.
Mhm.
And I've spoken to both of them. And one is Linda Garrett, who's our current secretary. The other is Catherine Van, who's been just awesome. And they are both willing to then be reappointed to a 3-year term.
Mhm.
So it would make sense to do the associate members and those 2 commissioners at the same time.
Well, then that avoids the problem of, I mean, not that I think it was a critical, but if we did that, yeah. But that actually would be the first meeting in July, because it happens after town meeting. But people,
Appointments?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But people serve until the successor is signed, so
Well,
that's not an
as long
issue.
as you know those 2
Yeah.
commissioners
Yeah.
would like to.
But I have no trouble appointing these 2 now with the expirations in 22 or 23 or 24, if whatever. I mean, yeah, Walter? I just don't want to get people expiring all over the place. One more thing for Terry to keep track of.
So I'll amend my motion. That Sally Merchant be appointed as an associate conservation commission member for a term that will expire in the first meeting after the town meeting of 2023.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Further discussion? Before this gets too complicated, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Okay.
And I move that Wes Pratt be appointed as an associate member of the Conservation Commission for a term that will expire in the first select board meeting after the town meeting of 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in further discussion? All those in favor? Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter? Okay, that's done. That'll be easier for you, Terry.
Now let's send Bob on his way.
Yes, I was looking for, okay, we're even in the right agenda item here. So we have a draft warrant that includes an article regarding the request of, where is it? It's
To see if the
article,
town will vote to appropriate the sum of $7,500 from the town landing reserve account to help support the Maine Lobstermen's Association's legal defense fund to save Maine lobster.
okay, it's Article 11 as drafted. We're hoping to finalize the warrant tonight, so your appearance here is timely. I will say we put in a specific sum of $7,500, and the reason that we did that is that's what's called a capped article. Town meeting can lower that amount, but they can't increase that amount. So that would be the maximum. So if you stand up and say you want $20,000, the moderator shouldn't rule that out of order. And we thought 7,500 based on what you told us. Fine.
That's great.
But it can be lower. Town meeting could lower it, or they could vote no. So,
Mhm.
so are you good with that then?
Oh, that's great. I appreciate the support.
And I did have a question. This is an expenditure, and the budget committee, the budget committee deal with this? They had no recommendation? Is that what happened? Because any expenditure, they're supposed to recommend on, and now they can say, we recommend, we have no recommendation, but.
After.
John,
Yeah,
I missed that meeting, but I remember reading the minutes, Terry, tell me if I'm wrong, that they did discuss it and if they,
I don't remember.
I thought they discussed it.
There are
but
two
they-
budget committee members
Yeah.
here.
oh,
I was in that meeting, although I'm not, but basically, I think what we said is we wanted the select board, to consider how much or whether.
So
The budget committee recommended no.
yeah, okay, so I think we should add to the warrant, budget committee has no recommendation. We've done that in the past when, and the budget committee has no recommendation, so. And we didn't recommend it either. I think we all agreed to put it in front of the town. That was my sense. So, and you guys can come, so to speak. But
That, you know, tonight for the record and on Zoom and maybe in the warrant, should make it clear that this has absolutely no impact on anybody's tax bill now or in the future. And then we're effectively, because it's coming from the town lending reserve, excise tax that we're paying them with their own money.
well, and that includes pleasurable.
Well, yeah.
But yes, the bulk of it's from. Yeah. So I think the warrant should say the budget committee has no recommendation and the board of selectmen have no recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Because that was what I think we agreed to, that we would put it in front of the town and without a recommendation. Is that your recollection, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't mind putting our recommendation in for 7,500 because we kind of came up with that. But because of the way the budget committee ended up handling it, I think it's cleaner if neither of us have a recommendation as opposed to one no recommendation and us with a recommendation. So yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. Okay. Go get your broom. Thank you. Or you can stay.
no, the hockey game starts in about 10 minutes.
Okay, let's jump back up. Little Red Schoolhouse, we got a draft warrant. Little Red Schoolhouse article is Article, oh, it is 5. Jeff, your hand is on this. Do you wanna, are you good with it? I read it again, seems fine to me.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay. Article, I'm gonna just run down, Article 6. This is the article that has to be precisely worded, correct? And the article, not at, is it the article itself or is it from part 4.3 on down?
That is the article.
Okay, is the lack of the comma between Owl's Head and South Thomaston in the original?
Verified.
The way it reads now is like Owl's Head, South Thomaston, one down.
Yeah.
And I know you said it had to be exact, but I didn't know if that meant from 4.3 down or.
That is Patrick wrote.
Yeah. And I get that. Okay, I'm gonna, okay, the select board on the nonprofit corporation, we got we met the facilities committee, can't remember when, last week. Reviewed that, and we haven't had a chance to discuss that discussion. We also, after the fact, got a second set of draft us, which had, actually, it had the facilities committee, and what we assumed was the final draft out of that office, and that wasn't the case. So my question is, do we want to walk through tonight? It's fairly complicated and lengthy, and or do we want to have schedule a dedicated meeting within the, the next week or so to walk through it? I prefer the latter.
So do I, because already in the mail trails, there are misconceptions about the whole thing being the mails that I've seen.
Yeah.
We need to level set.
Yeah. Are you good with that, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I
when
would
we get
prefer
down-
not to discuss it tonight. Just for your information, I liked all the changes that were made. I was comfortable with them. I do think the one thing remaining with our discussion was how many nominations the select board gets versus the rest of the group. So, but other than that, I think we're almost there.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. Just, I know Sandy had some questions and she couldn't zoom in tonight. So when we get down to scheduled meetings, let's not forget, or should we just do it now? Let's just, and we schedule a dedicated, and when does this have to be finalized by? Well, actually, the bylaws don't have to be finalized, right? But the article does, but I do have a question on whether these bylaws impact that article. I don't think they do, but I haven't had enough time to think that through. So
I didn't see anywhere where the bylaws themselves would be impacted, or the article would be impacted by the bylaws.
the only question that I had was, and I don't want to get into the substance. The article talked about money being paid over to the town, but new proposed bylaws take that out. I think it's okay, but again, I don't want to get into a long discussion, but I guess the point is I'd rather do it sooner than later though, because we have what, the 20th to actually get this to the printer?
We have a deadline, right? It's the
I know, because your deadline is different than the printer's deadline, right? Don't ever give people a real deadline.
Yeah.
No, you wanted it.
You want it to at night.
I need it May 17th, 12.
You do?
I do.
What time?
6 o'clock at night.
So,
What's
At night.
What's that?
Cool.
That's
no, that's all
that's
right.
to do Mondays.
It's the truck, it's the truck.
That on Tuesdays?
It is.
Okay, how many people do you have?
7, we'd like to, we can move.
17th work? Yeah,
Or what day did you say?
What day are we talking about?
17th. You're not going anywhere.
No, but I've got a Lions dinner that night, so 17th is not good.
Okay, how about the 16th?
16th is good for me.
Okay.
I don't think it's good for Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
No, that doesn't work.
Hold on. You can have the room. Oh, wait, no, you can't, because Amy's got a joint training that night, so no, I have to keep the room. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
How's the 18th? I can't do the 16th anyway.
Oh, you can't. How about the 18th?
18th is good for me.
Can't believe the Lions take precedent over this.
It's the annual installation of officers.
Okay, so we're gonna go with the 18th, and hopefully that'll work, at least Zoom wise, for Sandy and Gabe and everybody else. And that'll give us some time to read these a little more. Okay, for us in the select board, the acquisition of fire trucks. We have a draft article, which is should have made Article 9. It says to see if the town will authorize the select board to expend up to $850,000 to purchase or lease purchase a new tanker fire engine and a new or used utility truck. Fund the expenditure substantially in accordance with the method listed below. Issue bonds or notes or execute a lease purchase agreement or agreements in an aggregate amount of debt and principal of debt principal not to exceed $412,034 and not to exceed a term of 7 years. I've highlighted the years. I have no idea. I just pulled that out of the air. Reduce the amount of the aggregate amount of debt issued or contemplated to be issued by any amounts of grants, donations, or other funds that may be obtained for this purpose. Negotiate other such terms and conditions necessary to complete the purchase and funding. And then I also had a trade-in allowance and a proceeds article. I think we should strike that. That typically doesn't come after. So Brian, any word? I was gonna look up there for you. Any word on this grant update? And that, what's the amount of? Good.
My hopes are still not up just because of the topic, but yeah, if we're making it this far, it could be hopeful, but I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen.
But you haven't been thrown out yet.
We have not, I have not been notified about any denials.
Okay, and Walter, you wanted to talk a little bit about lease theme. I didn't know if you meant lease in a true sense of the word or lease purchase.
I kind of. Find any of these where you don't have to apply. And I can understand why they would do that because they don't want rate shop there. Haven't gotten any specific.
Well, in my former life, I had quite a bit of experience with lease purchasing. Worked out well, and big player in Maine was savings bank. One of the nice things about it is you don't have to have a bond counsel opinion because it's not really a bond. The collateral is not. What? If they ever had to come and take it, you'd probably never get another one, so I would be open to that option too, and I think some of the vendors actually participate in that, but I think this article covers that.
Yes, I think it does
Yeah,
too.
because even if we pass this, we're gonna have to go back, and when we do get it wrong, we're gonna have to go back to town meeting and get an article specific to the borrowing, I'm sure. But lease purchasing, we might not have to, so. So, we good with it? The term. I don't know, I'm not.
I didn't bring the bond bank thing that I did earlier, but I did 15 or 20.
Well, 412 divided by 7, just the principal itself would be what? What's 412 divided by 7?
70,000 a year.
58. So with and we want to have one of those, I don't know what the total interest would be, but we can structure it in such a way that the payment is equal.
Level debt.
Yeah, each year. So I don't know, because the longer it is, the more interest we pay.
Yeah.
Or we could just leave that out and ask the town to let us make that decision. I don't know how you guys want to handle it. Because down below it says, and other such terms and conditions that the town needs.
I think one thing.
Maybe we could push it not to exceed.
Yeah, or we should run the bond bank calculator anyway to see if anything's changed
Yeah.
because of the interest rate situation.
Well, could we do that before our meeting
Yeah,
on,
we can do that.
that we just scheduled on the 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we could actually add this to the, agenda gets bigger already. Okay, so I think we need to strike that trade allowance, because again, that comes in after the fact. So we can use it to pay down on the debt, but, or start a new reserve for the future. But. And also on this matter, my understanding is the fire department is putting together a presentation. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're contemplating at this point?
No problem, we're gonna do it. June 9th will be a public information meeting. Zoom will be available once one of us will hire Terry for the night to run Zoom for us. But we're gonna have it here at the station. We're gonna have it out in the bay because this will not work, because I'm gonna assume we're gonna exceed. So we won't have the luxury of the TVs and stuff, but we'll figure it out. It's basically, we're gonna do the PowerPoint presentation like we did back in 2015, explaining what the issues are, why we need to switch, what will happen if we don't purchase new trucks, and having a little bit aspects of the funding formula that you guys come up with and what's available in the reserve and what we're looking at. So we're gonna doing it the 9th, puts it well before town meeting, which is 21st or 28th. Good to know. So we're only gonna do one. So just because between now and June 9th, we are going to be putting the PowerPoint together to get it done. So at this point, we have all our specs figured out of what we're gonna put out to bid. We'll offer to the truck companies when it comes time, if it gets approved, so we'll have everything ready to go. Pending the outcome of the town meeting. But basically, the June 9th is a presentation by the fire department of why we're doing what we're asking for, and if there's any questions from the public at that time for a better explanation of what we're doing. All right, good point. 6
Walter?
o'clock.
So what was the learning lesson from the failure of the first go-round of the last one that we want to avoid? Because the funny thing, well, it was obvious. If you didn't do it, if you did it the next year, which it lost once, and so the next year, the truck cost more and the borrowing was higher, so.
The problem we ran into back in 2014 was that we, the fire department, were trying to change up our, I'll call it task force with our equipment. Trying to change the plans of what the rotation was. And in 2014, we didn't have a replacement plan. So after getting denied, we'll say, on 2014, we went back to square one and said, all right, we're gonna put in a 10-year plan. The trucks will be at the 30-year mark. The town theoretically will get the bang for the buck for the age of the vehicle, pending any major issues. So that's why it passed round 2, in my opinion, versus round 1.
So important points that this is not a surprise that came out of, the ambulance was a surprise.
Yeah, this is
Because
not
it failed.
a surprise.
This was, we saw the obsolescence coming, and it's behaving like an obsolete piece of equipment, and it's just right on time with the replacement plan.
Correct.
So those are important points to make.
And it'll be in there. Deputy Chief Elwell is leading the charge on that, so.
Plus, we had the experience last year when the truck went out of service, and for a while, we didn't think we were gonna be able to get it back into service.
Correct, and that Band-Aid is still hanging on,
Right.
so we're keeping everything.
So I was glad to hear you say that you're gonna include in your presentation what the consequences would be if this gets voted down, because I think it's easy to vote it down. It's expensive, so it's easy to vote it down, but I think people need to understand, yeah, you can vote it down, but if you do, that means X, Y, and Z. And I think that, I'm glad to hear you're thinking about that. Okay, so back to the article itself. So we're good with those changes. You want to put an up to on the term, Walter?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that at the next meeting, but you're going to do a little research. Okay. But maybe we should do an up to. All right. So have we covered them all on the town meeting warrant? That's the meat of tonight's meeting.
The tax discount.
Oh, the discount. And actually, I have one other thing. Terry, on article, before we get to that, I just remembered. On Article 28, my impression was, and my intent was that Article 23 as rewritten was to replace the Article 23 and Article 28.
So I need to take Article 28 up.
That was the intent, to
Okay.
consolidate those two articles, because Article 28 is redundant of the new revised Article 23.
Okay, so take out 28.
So if you remember, there were two articles in there. One kind of dealt with gifts and
Yeah,
donations, and another dealt with grants, and the idea was to put them together. And one other minor thing on the closing. And I thought this got put in the language before, but on the last line, it says a person who's not registered as a voter may not vote in any election, including town meeting. At one time we put in there a person who is not registered as a voter in South Thomaston,
okay.
because we had somebody argue once that they were registered, but they were in Maryland. I know, I got. Huh? And they had a point.
Yeah.
I'm a registered voter. He wasn't, the moderator didn't allow him, but it was a bit of a heated argument. I'm serious, I remember that.
I can believe it.
And then you have a question on Article 10 to change town meetings. We had talked about putting in perhaps a non-advisory question on, I assume this is referring to the referendum for elected officials, and is it?
Yes.
Do we want to go with the non-binding question?
See what people like.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like the idea of giving them a non-binding vote.
okay. Okay. So, Terry, you want to draft that?
Sure, John.
Okay, so then the last thing is the tax, the discount. I think that's the last thing. Thoughts? It's not in here now, right? And we didn't settle it at the last meeting. Terry and I couldn't remember, so we went back and watched that. We just kind of let it hang in the air after a long discussion. No thoughts?
I'm confused.
What's the question?
The discount, the tax discount, that we had a long last meeting, it's not in there now. We talked about taking it out, we talked about,
The prepayment discount.
right, okay, yeah, sorry.
Uh,
But we didn't finalize the decision, we just talked about it. Well, I'll start.
Standard
Oh, go
practice.
ahead. It is standard practice, long standard practice, but if we're gonna keep it, we gotta at a minimum change it. Because we can't say you gotta pay by June 1st and then not have town meeting until June 29th. I thought about it a lot, and I'm opposed to it. I think it is very unfair that the people who can afford it, the more fortunate among us actually get a discount that the less fortunate have to pay.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I actually questioned, the more I really thought about it, I thought to myself, is this even legal? I mean, is this in effect taxing people differently? I don't have an answer to that question, but, and I think we made the change to 2 tax bills a year. The purpose of the discount was to help with our cash flow. We made the change to 2 tax bills a year to improve our cash flow. That was the primary reason for it. So now, in my mind, our lame excuse is gone. So
So we should spend the money that we saved by not giving the discount by repeatedly reminding people about the second due date.
That'll be good.
How many outstanding?
About 135 still.
But it's coming down, it's coming down.
But, well, the 50 of those people.
Don't ever pay.
Oh, that's the
They're-
standard layout,
Right,
okay.
they're
So it's really we're talking
frequent
about.
flyers.
Frequent fly-
How much does it cost to do a second mailing, a second billing?
We didn't do it then.
I know,
Oh.
but would it be less than sending out 30-day notices?
Well, you'd have to
Yeah,
do a
'cause
billing for the
you'd
whole
have to
thing.
bill everybody, just to send a bill. to
Terry
everybody.
sent a letter to everybody,
Yeah, they sent 220 or so letters out, and
so we wouldn't have to pay the filing fee, but that's getting off the topic of the discount.
You convinced me.
Jeff,
Yeah, you've convinced me too.
I mean, the downside of this is town meeting can't put it back in.
So the worst case then would be a lot of negative feedback for the next board to put it back on the warrant next year. So we'd have a year of
Right.
experience. I'm fine with that.
And I can get unelected the next year. Okay. I like this idea.
This strategy is emerging.
I guess I'd like to, if you guys would indulge me, I'd like to ask Penny her thoughts. She's been a selectman here and on the budget committee a long time, and I know you know a lot of
People like
people. I know people like it. I know people like it. I like it. And I can afford to take advantage. But
So it will probably be a topic of discussion whether it's there or not. Because people,
yeah,
even though it's a small amount of money, that probably costs the town more to pay out than what it.
it won't be as simple either,
no.
because
Gotta
there's
get
2
complicated.
payments and.
Well, I don't see that. I mean, I think you keep it and it's, you know, pay by July, whatever you want, and get that.
Well, I
discount
suppose
on that amount of
if we just kept it as you pay by a certain date, and it doesn't matter whether it's the April payment or the March payment, but
Well, I don't intend to make 2 payments ever anyway. I am never going to wait for that second bill that doesn't come. I'm gonna pay it all at once, no matter when. And if I have a 1% discount, I have 0.5% discount, I'm gonna pay it because in my mind, I'm saving money, so.
okay, so it's not in there right now. Do we need, we don't need to take any action unless we want to put it in the warrant. Going once, going twice? Okay,
By the time you get this, I'll be in the audience. No tomatoes being thrown at me.
No,
anything else on the warrant, Terry?
no, I disagree with letting the select board member is stepping down, they need to sit at the head table through that meeting. That's what it is.
Although because they're still selected until the successor is sworn,
That's
which
right.
happens after the meeting. but- So. I disagree with that too, I have to say.
That's always good.
But I guess you can sit wherever you want, it's a free country.
Now, before you get back
I'm
on,
happy to do that.
the Wednesday, the May 18th meeting you scheduled is Wednesday, I
Yeah.
know this. And I didn't have a time,
I don't think we set a time, I was assuming 6, but. So, anything else on the warrant? Again, this is the meat of our meeting here tonight. This is important. Everybody read it carefully? I've read it 3 times at least. I haven't checked the numbers, Terry.
Yeah,
It might not hurt, but
I'll put it in front of Phil.
you and Phil
The budget numbers.
go through the budget committee
Yeah.
numbers, and I haven't done those. And there's one article where we have a discrepancy with the budget committee, is that correct?
Yes.
Or is it 2? Is that, did we put that on there?
It's the recognition.
Recreation. Where is the recreation? Oh,
Was it the recreation?
Yeah,
Select board,
yeah, it's not on
that
there.
got reconciled.
No, we didn't. I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either. Sandra?
I can't remember. I know we reconciled conservation.
I'm 99% sure we didn't reconcile that.
So I need to.
And that's how Bev remembered it at that meeting down at the skate park, that you were at, Maureen. Because I remember saying to the cats that there was a difference. The selectmen were recommending 10,000, 5,000 in the reserve and 5,000 in the budget, and the budget committee was only recommending 5,000. That's how I recollected it. But let's double check that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of
I'm
the-
confident that that stayed the same. That didn't change.
You didn't reconcile.
Did not get reconciled.
So there needs to be two different recommendations on there.
Correct.
I hate computers. Okay, well, we got a little, anybody comes up with anything else, we could always add that to next Wednesday. You got something? Oh,
Yeah, what version of the budget is gonna go into the town report?
well, why don't we talk about that when we get to the town report?
Okay.
How's that? You good, Terry?
I'm good.
Okay, I think the next item is, oh no, newsletter. Actually, C and D are kind of tied together. But let's take up your question of the town report and what version of the budget's going in there. I noticed that has changed over the last few years, but did you have some thoughts on it?
No, just wanted to get people's sense for how much detail.
I don't have. What was in last year was quite
Sparse.
sparse. Thought I had it somewhere. Before. I know I do. I think there's somewhere. I don't know. Do people feel that people want more detail, or I don't really have. I haven't thought about this, to be honest with you.
Increase the cost of printing?
Yeah.
Well.
But obviously it does, but I don't have my town report. We're gonna have to select it at home.
So they help you get one?
No, not necessarily, but I guess years ago, we used to put in a very detailed budget, and we got away from that because we're trying to cut down on cost of printing, I assume. I mean, I wasn't really here when we did away, when it started to go down. I was under Owen, I think, when he was here. Right? I don't know. Thoughts? I think we should have more than that summary page. I wish I had, yeah, maybe we should get this, sorry. Yeah, there it is, right there.
Do we need a few so people can look at them, or?
Pass it around. I just wanna.
Do you want one, Walter?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 pages.
Right. And that's, the reason I bring it up is, that's fine, because I have the spreadsheets, so I'm into the details, but that's not what the general public gets.
Right.
So.
Well, we could make a budget, we could make a detailed budget available at town meeting and not put it in the town report.
I like that idea, especially since there is a pretty well detailed report on the budget produced by the budget committee in their minutes every single time. So I like the idea of having a handout there that has details of the budget rather than putting it in the town report.
So how about
That's more reasons.
Now
I have 4 of these.
So Terry produces a PDF of the Excel, so it can't get modified. How about if we announce at some point that post that on the website?
What are we doing? I messed it up.
Well, we're having a discussion about a hybrid. Last year, there's only 2 pages of the budget in
Okay,
here.
I brought a couple of the older books to see what they have.
Yeah, and I think the year before that was the case.
Same as the year before.
So we're talking about a hybrid of just putting the 2 pages in here, but then having a handout at town meeting, which in essence is a PDF of the Excel spreadsheet.
So this is that we used to do, the last page that has everything broken
Yeah.
down.
See, that's what we used to put in there, but
Yeah.
we're talking about a hybrid. Just putting the 2 pages that are in here,
Okay,
maybe 3, because I think the 3rd page, I think this doesn't have any revenue, does it? Or does it?
so this just has the summary, the top part of that, the summary.
This 21-22 has revenues at a high level.
Yeah, at a very high level, but yeah, which is probably okay. Actually, I'm fine with this 2-page summary if we have a handout that is basically
The next level
the
down.
next, well, yeah.
But like the
Yeah,
bottom part of that has all the breakdowns.
and we could also put that on the website.
Yep.
Okay,
Sounds like a plan.
okay. The other thing in the town report is there's a state law that says you can have an audit report in the town report. But we don't have an audit report that's newer than this one. So I think it is absolutely absurd, and I don't think the law was ever intended to cover the circumstance, to put it in again, in this upcoming report, considering it's 25 pages. I propose that we just put a simple sheet in there saying there's no audit report included this year because we changed the fiscal years. For an audit report ending December 31st, whenever this was, 2020, please refer to the 2020. And there will be an audit report for the period ending June 30th, 2022 in the 2022 town report. That's what I propose.
Right.
Even though the law says you shall include an audit report.
Who's gonna tell?
Well, I mean, I don't think the law envisioned this situation personally.
It's always gonna be the case.
I can't imagine the attorney general and a prosecutor this one.
It'll be a year behind. It's always gonna be. Sorry.
Say something crazy.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Jeff, are you good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes no sense to repeat last year's.
Okay. I do think we should put a brief explanation of why.
Yep.
Okay, so,
John?
yeah,
You
yes.
could also say the most recent audit report is available at the town office.
Sure.
You got
Yeah,
it.
Exactly, that's my point. Rather than wasting another 20 pages of trees. Okay, then we need to write, someone needs to write up a dedication. And the selectmen's report, I'll take a stab at that as chair. Terry's been collecting the other reports. You're in pretty good shape there, Terry.
I'm getting there.
And do we have a report from the RSU 13 yet?
No, I emailed them again today.
Okay. And we need to, you're updating, I assume, all the appointments. Okay. So the big question, the thought that I had was, and that's why I think C and D are tied together. I think in this day and age, we throw a ton of these away every year. I think we should do maybe 300 of them, have a handout of the budget and a handout of the warrant at the town meeting, which is only 2 or 3 pages. And you said you could put this on the website?
I don't know why you couldn't.
Okay. Well, you were gonna look into that to make sure that there was no. I mean, would you take a copy it
Yeah.
and post it, and that's not like this huge task that we're gonna spend 4 days doing, or?
It shouldn't be, I should be able to scan it in and put it up here.
Okay.
Your scanner has a document feeder, yeah? You don't have to.
Yeah. Okay, I just don't wanna propose saving someone that actually has an unintended consequence of causing more work. And then tell people, have them here available to hand out and not mail them, but mail a newsletter. And in that newsletter, one of the articles would say, if you want, we're not gonna mail a town report this year, but if you would like one, you could get one at the town office or on the website. And I think that sort of brings us more into the modern world. But I know some people won't like it because they like getting mailed their town report, which has not only the cost of printing them, but mailing them. And Terry laid out the numbers for us. So, but I think if we mail the newsletter and explain that covers it. And I think there's a lot we can talk about in the newsletter and get it out before town meeting. Fire truck, Island Road, library,
MIDC report.
the axiom study that we did, there's tons of things that we could touch on. So, thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm not sure 300 is going to be enough, though.
we throw a lot away, don't
I would go with all of them.
we? Okay,
But if you don't mail them, you can assume you'll need more in the office. The 300, I would think. People still want it, they'll come get it.
yeah, I've got 4 of this one.
I think we mailed people that don't want them, that don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they just go in the trash.
I've never gotten over the change in format sizes, now they don't say nicely, but the previous 30 years.
I have the same problem. I just had to find it spot. Okay, so we're good to go. We're gonna go 400?
Yep.
Okay. So anybody who wants to do, if the Conservation Commission wants to do a newsletter article or any of the committees, that would be nice. They're gonna be brief because we fit it on the 4 pages, right? So we're talking really brief. Sandra?
Newsletter,
It goes, we mail it to every taxpayer.
it's separate.
Terry can show you an old one.
It's a legal side.
Legals, they're like this, they're 4 pages, printed front and back.
Right.
So there isn't a lot of room.
I think I got one.
So I'm just saying, if the Conservation Commission, where you're new, might be a nice time to introduce yourself through the newsletter.
Okay.
I don't mean personally, but,
Oh.
Yeah.
You just have to keep it short.
but yeah, real short. Okay, so are we good to go with all that?
Is, timetable on the newsletter?
Soon as possible. Well,
No, seriously, when do you?
Well, we'd like to get it out before town meeting, so probably at least a good week. We'd like to get it in the mail probably 12 days before town
Right,
meeting.
it's gonna take a while to print them all.
Right,
Yeah.
so
So I don't know, we haven't,
I'd say no later than
yesterday,
June 1st.
yeah, June
June
1st.
first, okay.
But if you get it earlier,
Yeah, early.
Terry starts putting it together, you know what I
I've
mean?
already started it,
Yeah, she's already started something, so
and when we run out of space, we run out of space.
no recipe.
It's the first thing I look for, John.
Okay,
Zucchini bread.
yeah. Are we good to move on? Okay. I'm gonna be brief here. Update on the Island Road project and paving. Actually, I finally have a firm date on replacing the culverts on the Island Road outside of the project area, which is starting next Monday. The 2 that are between Route 73 and the intersection with Island Road, he's planning on doing Monday and Tuesday, weather permitting, and closing the road and detouring traffic around Village, because it's quicker and cheaper to do it if you can just yank the whole thing out and not have to keep traffic flowing Then the two that are beyond that, way up by the parking area for the co-op, we'll have to do, well, we still haven't decided whether we're doing two up there or one, and I've got to talk with Jerry some more. But that will be a keep half the road open type of deal, so there will be some delays. That hopefully would happen Wednesday, and there'll be some shouldering. That's the only firm dates I have at this point. My understanding is, and I haven't heard anything different, that the road elevation project itself is, Hager's planning for somewhere around the second or third week of July. And then the paving, as I think we've discussed here, would happen in the project areas and the balance of Island Road at the same time. So that's really all I have. If anybody's got any questions, spending quite a bit of time on it. The one culvert that's in question, Jerry came down and walked around and looked at it with me, and he seems to think it's an old stone built, granite stone culvert. And we should just leave it alone. It's been there 200 years. Jimmy Callis went down and looked at it. There are galvanized pipes coming in and leading out of it, so he was gonna camera it. He's just gonna quickly run a camera through. And if it is an old stone drain and those pipes just happen to be at the end, I think we will just leave it. If it isn't, we'll have to replace it, so. Or should replace it, obviously. And there is a dip there, so I'm starting to,
Where is that?
right by the post. There's a dip there, and then there's one just below the parking lot that's really dipped. So, and they've been there a long time. So that's it on that. Chad, do you have is that a hand up? I don't know how to do this.
Oh, Terry.
Oh, that's just me.
Okay, all right, good. Okay. Skateboard park. I thought the Paquettes were going to be here tonight. But I just wanted to, we did have that meeting the night that you weren't able to attend, Walter. You were traveling, and Jeff had his medical things the next day. So I attended, John and Pam came, along with three, actually Maureen came and a couple of other folks, Deb St. Clair. We had a good discussion. Basically, the long and the short of it is, it definitely is in disrepair, it needs some help. And so the idea was floated of trying to refocus it towards the younger kids, because they're building this big cement thing in Rockland or something. Is that you? Oh, me. Okay. So John and Pam are going to organize a work party, volunteer work party to basically dismantle the two or three of the larger pieces of equipment that are in bad shape. Get rid of them, keep two, try to rehabilitate those. I guess one was the original one. Terry was at it as well. And I said that since all that stuff's going to end up in the dumpster out here anyways, that we could see if R&G could just leave a dumpster down there on a Friday afternoon, so they could just chuck the stuff in there and then they would pick it up. I assume you guys have no objections to that, but because it's going to end up out there anyway, so we're going to pay for it. So, just makes their life easier. The other thought was to take the fence down. We couldn't at the time remember why the fence was there, and it really is only on three sides. And then Penny reminded us after that it's RC 13 required because we didn't want the little kids coming in during resources and stuff. So the thought was to take the fence down, that'll make it much easier to access, and then fill around the cement pad where it drops off, and with hopefully some of the fill we got out back here. We got tons of it out there by the stump dump. Bring it down there and then maybe put some, an inch or two of loam on the top and try to grass that area around, for set up some picnic tables or something. And then with some of the town's money and maybe some donations, try to buy some items kind of off the shelf for that are focused more towards younger skateboarders. And I just, Pat Cats were on board with that. And I just wanted to kind of get your I don't know, we need a vote, but just because we don't have a firm plan, but kind of get the board's blessing to kind of move in that direction. If you're so inclined.
Well,
I think it's a great idea. I think you ended up with a very elegant solution, I think.
Can you? I hate the idea. No.
I mean, usage seems to me to be older kids. So there's the assumption that they're gonna all go to Rockland when the $100,000 concrete thing is built, and how they're gonna get there.
Well,
It becomes an expedition.
Yeah, I think the assumption was that two of those larger things would be maintained. I think there's four. Two would go. There were two that are in the worst shape. But I think the assumption is that if we built it more towards focusing towards younger kids, and I think Penny can probably add to it, but I think Penny was the one who actually suggested focusing towards younger kids, because she kind of saw that it was getting more used by the younger kids. But I'll let Penny speak for yourself.
I think it is widely used by young and old, but I think the ones that drive themselves there now will be having to greener pastures when there is one. But we have young families with kids on scooters and roller skates and little bicycles. We have the middle-aged kids who walk there with their skateboards. And we have the crew that drive themselves there. And, but there are families who show up and their kids play on the playground, they play on the skate park. It's well used, that's for sure. But it's getting dangerous.
Yeah, it's actually getting worse and worse.
And the fences down in areas.
And it'd be so much easier to clean it and mow it if it wasn't all, if it was grass around the concrete.
Sounds like a plan.
So, I mean, we'll come back, or who was ever doing it, we'll come back and work on it, but I guess initially we just wanted to get started and get cleaned up, and I thought we could simply for now just store the fence out back by the, no sense throwing it away, by the salt shed out there somewhere, and maybe we'll have some use for it down the road or something for something else, but. Okay. That was easy. Compared to tennis and back, this is a disaster. So, we didn't get any bids to renovate the tennis court, so I think I emailed you guys that. We did have one guy, there were three companies that looked at it. Two companies didn't bid because they were way too busy and scheduled out and have staff shortages. And they were the two companies that told us to put it out in March, because that would be the ideal time. So that was a little frustrating, but I did have a third company come look at it, and he had a little window in September, but when he looked at it, he said, I'm not bidding on that. He says, those cracks are gonna come right back, no matter what you do, whether you just go in with filler or mastic, you need to rebuild it. So I talked to the guy at the state about it, sent an email out to the little working group, CCC you guys. And he kind of felt, the guy at the state, that we really probably shouldn't throw our money away. And then I sort of remembered too that we had patched these cracks probably twice before, if not 3 times before over the years, and they keep coming back. So I had a long chat with Maine Tennis and Track, and he agreed, because both, oh, by the way, both their proposals, when they were given to Owen way back when, sending bold letters on the bottom, cannot guarantee that cracks won't come back. So I asked him, I said, is that a euphemism for they will come back? He said, basically. So we met with as a group, and we came up with the thought that we're probably looking to replace 2 tennis courts without replacing the fence, but just tennis courts, rebuild the base, resurface, repaint them. We're probably looking at somewhere around $160,000 to $170,000. So we talked about, well, what about replacing one pool and having it a dual use pickleball, tennis court, at that group. And so, we talked about that, and I think that group sort of endorsed that as a concept. But the first thing we really need to do is we need to get test borings done to see what the problem is. I talked to a guy named Dorsky, and who referred me to a company in Rockland that does test borings, and they said they could come down for, do hand borings, not machine borings, go down 2.5, 3 feet, for probably somewhere in the vicinity of 2,000 to 2,500 per quart. One quart is really bad, so I was thinking we could maybe get the quart that's in better shape board, because you really can't get a firm price until we have the test board on how we can build it. Long and the short of it is, if we went this route, we would have to raise, let's say it is $85,000 to rebuild one court, and that's a real order of magnitude number at this point. We would have to raise some of the money that we currently have is for that resurfacing purpose, but we're still going to have to raise, I don't have the exact numbers in my head, a substantial amount of money for our local match, probably somewhere in the vicinity of, I'm thinking 30,000 or something like that, more than we have now, or 25. So I guess the big question is that doable? We're not going to necessarily decide this tonight, but are you looking for someone in there or just? Oh,
Need my keys?
yeah. I thought you kind of
I-
were waiting for me to.
Sorry.
Waiting for me to pause, which was fine.
I lost myself.
So I thought we had a plan, and then when I spoke to Doug again today to find out if the test borings would be eligible under the grant. And he said they would be, but we'd have to modify the grant, and just got more and more complicated. And then he said to me, which he hadn't told me before, that he can modify the grant only up to 22,000. And he hadn't told me that before I had a meeting with this working group. He told me that he could modify the grant right up, and to get more money from him, we'd actually have to reapply and start over. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. But he said you probably should put everything on hold, and if you can afford it, get the test borings done from the money that you have on hand, and see what we're up against. And that may or may not be an eligible reimbursement, half of the test borings. You might just have to pay for that out of the money that you currently have on hand. And I think that's probably the logical step. The other step is to simply patch the cracks on one or both of the courts with an acrylic, and don't do the mastic because that's quite expensive. And basically the third guy who came up, and Doug verified this, says, if you're gonna just patch them, don't do the expensive one, do the cheap one, because they're gonna come back anyway, so you're throwing away less money now. So that's where we're at there. So I would like to go ahead and get the test ones and see what we're looking at, but, and they may or may not be 50% reimbursable. And we have the money on hand to do that. So, yeah.
Is that going to render the one usable court unusable?
She said they could patch them, so there'd be little holes. You know, I don't know how big they are, maybe that big or whatever. Unless anybody's got better ideas or $50,000-$60,000 hanging around, I don't know where else to go with it.
Well, I might proceed with the basketball court.
Well, no, not now. He says we shouldn't proceed with anything because if we have to go apply for a new grant, we should put everything on hold except for the test points, if we can do that with our own money. That's changed since we met as a group.
But I mean, I've seen
Well,
That-
because we're not gonna be able to fulfill our grant obligation, which said we would resurface them, so. The other option is we can apply for a modification and get another 5 or 6 grand and try to patch them a year from now. But they may not approve that knowing now that they're just gonna fall apart. And do we wanna throw our money away? I'm sure I'm forgetting 10 other important facts, but that's the best I can do tonight. I got a lot of time, a lot of phone calls. Yes, so,
Yeah,
so I'd just like to go ahead and get the test work
I agree with that.
and see what we're up against. And then we make a decision where we're going. The other option we can do is we can apply for a certificate of obsolescence to do away with both those courts, tennis courts now, and turn it into some other type of equivalent recreational area, whatever that means. Disc golf. Which may be what we have to do. So, nothing's happening fast here, but I do think we need, I will say this, that, my wife and I put the net up, the tennis net up the other day. One court is usable. It's the patch that we did, her and I did last summer. It's cracked a little bit, but it's not bad. I think we should paint on the really bad court, right on it, court closed. And also Gail is gonna work with the pickleball things. I bought a little container to put the pickleball nets in and modified it a little. And we're gonna get the pickleball nets out there, or one of them, within a few days and get a notice out that it's available. The one court is available for use. It's not perfect. The pickleball nets are out there and you can use them. So it'll be, and the basketball court actually came up pretty good with the patch that we did down the middle. And then Artie put up new chain nets. So that's still available. So,
Kids were out there playing basketball.
yeah, the basketball courts were quite a bit used, I know. So. Okay, we good? Yeah? Okay. And I'll try to get the latest information out to that other group, but it may not be right away. Leslie's leaving for Portugal Thursday, and I gotta take it to Logan and blah, blah, blah. So. Execute the certificate, certified ratio declaration form. Terry, I don't know anything about this. Well, that's not true, I do.
Jay gave it to me and said that you guys need to sign it and I need to send it to the state.
And that's it?
That's what he said to me.
Well, he's a big help.
Who's that?
Jay,
Jay?
So it has our certification ratio at 94%.
Could I just ask, ratio of what to what?
That's my question.
Oh,
When is this supposed to be at the state?
he said to mail it as soon as you send it. I said June 1st.
June 1st.
Yep.
You know, they do this all the time. They dump this stuff on us. There's no written explanation.
No, I think that there's something that is done every year and they
It
just
is, it
assume
is,
that
it
you
is.
remember and they remember and.
there are ratios of our valuation compared to their valuation.
I'm gonna read it. I haven't read it yet. I thought, Terry, you would know a little about it, but I thought he'd tell you a little something.
Yeah, this is the one, if it gets too bad, we have to do a review.
Okay, all right, you got us at 94%, and none of the boxes check that we have to do a total reval or a partial revaluation.
Does that still happen at 90?
94, it has it.
But when does the reval get?
I think it's 90.
If this ratio is not between 77 and 94,
Check the box
check
below.
the box.
So maybe it's 94. So,
It's not between 97,
no, it is not between it.
right?
So we haven't checked the box.
We don't have to.
It says that this ratio is not between. Okay. Okay. so this
And it
90.
is between, so we don't have to check a box.
Check any box.
No, it is not between. It is 94. That's not between 77 and 94. 93 would be between it.
Well, it's part of it.
Yeah,
He's ignorant, just move on. But
Yeah, so take out the between and say if the ratio is not 94, then check the box. It is 94, so we don't have to check the box.
It said between.
And the other thing is that we don't have option 1 or option 2 checked. I would think we would need to do that.
Well, we're not gonna do a total reval this year. You know, I personally would rather be. I personally would have a motion, I'd like a motion to sign it, assuming that it's a June 1st this is gonna be complicated, is a drop dead deadline, and have Terry find out if it is a drop deadline, and if it is, we'll sign and send it in and deal with it after the fact, but I'd like some more information from them. And I'm tired of the way they drop the stuff on us at the last minute with no explanation. Don't even offer an explanation to Terry. I'd rather be late and get an explanation than assuming there's no major consequence, like we're gonna lose our revenue sharing. Or something like that.
It's the homestead exemption that is
Yeah.
at risk. I agree, let's sign it and ask Jay if, we have any risk in any of those boxes, because I don't think so.
Yeah, we do need to send it in because they're gonna use it to estimate our
Our
homestead. We don't wanna miss the deadline then.
Our 2021 tax rate wasn't 15.7 though, was it?
No, it's 23 something.
Yeah, so that's not right on
but that was from the fiscal thing, right?
Yeah,
I think he might have taken a year
it
though.
was 1535 the year before.
I think what he did was he took the tax rate and annualized it
there.
from 18 months to, because that number rings a bell with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
He annualized it down to 12 months. And that does make
That would make sense.
sense.
Yeah, you did that calculation in reverse.
Yeah. Well, you know, the more I look at this, it's only for that estimated first payment. So I think we're probably okay, but I would like to find out more about it. And so is there a motion?
Motion to approve certified ratio declaration form as presented.
For a second?
With option 2 checked.
No, that's not as presented.
No, no, right. I move that we select option 2 of the certified ratio declaration form and submit it.
I'll second that.
That's the partial reval?
No,
But
option 2, 94%, not 85.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
To select option
because
2.
it looks like he didn't do, well, again, you don't know what he did. Okay, is there further discussion? All those in favor?
And wait a minute, on the discussion, we've got a meeting before the deadline as well, right? So we should be able to get some kind of
Yeah.
information back by then.
We do, that's right. We could change it. Add that to the agenda.
Which one?
The next one.
The 24th?
Well, I would like the next one if possible.
Okay.
But it's not the 24th. And you know, can you please tell, they've got to give us better. I mean, he did this with that abatement. I mean, no explanation.
Yes,
no-
it's
Huh?
Jay, it's Jay.
I know. I don't care if it's Maria.
I'll call Kevin.
Yes, thank you. Kevin is, okay. All right, further discussion? What are we doing? Are we gonna table it to the next meeting?
We can.
We had a motion to sign it.
I'm easy. We can either table it to the next one or go ahead with the motion.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Will you withdraw and make a motion to table?
Yes, I moved to table the,
Will you withdraw your second?
I withdraw and I second the new motion.
Okay. All those in favor of tabling it? Aye.
I,
Jeff, I.
I don't mean to be picky about this stuff either, but we're paying them good money. We should be getting some.
especially since if we make a mistake,
It's ours.
we're
Right,
guilty of
we're signing
perjury.
it. We're signing it. Drive me crazy. Okay, oh, now we get to the complicated stuff. Consideration of acceptable use agreement. So Terry, you must know something about this.
Yeah, it's complicated. I think so much of it doesn't seem to really apply to us. I mean, I get having the cybersecurity, but when they start talking about, I mean, I'm the only one that remotes in and nobody takes a town laptop home. I mean, some of the things just don't really apply to us.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't read this. I started to, and when I realized it was 9 pages long in 6 fonts,
So this is from MMA.
Yes, this is from
This is,
MMA.
and it's really long.
I mean, can ours just be beefed up a little bit with some of this stuff?
because we have a computer use policy already.
Yeah, I sent that too.
It's,
To them?
no, it's in
No,
our
it's
packet.
in-
Yeah, no, I knew that, yeah.
I mean, we don't use Facebook and Twitter on our laptops at work. Oh, we're not supposed to. Everyone just uses their phone.
But
When is this due?
you're not gonna like this, John, but the technical definition of a remote user is anybody who is not on premise. And this calls for double-factor authentication, two-factor authentication for anybody, including email users.
I'm gonna have to buy another computer, so I can stay logged in.
There is no deadline for this, John. This is just their recommendation that we kind of move towards this.
I hate to say it, but I would like to have the time to read it.
It may be helpful to send it to Gus.
Yep,
So we'll have to see what he says.
okay.
And is this something that it's supposed to go out to every employee?
I mean, that wouldn't, I mean, none of Amy's, well, not all of Amy's people use the computer.
I know, but that's my question. Is it supposed to go out to every employee and every committee member and every, I mean, for example, Theo's gonna use your computer tomorrow night. I mean, where does this end?
But she's using it right here. She's not taking it out of here.
No, I know, but she's using it.
Yeah.
You know. I hate signing on to something just because, oh, sign it, you know?
I think it's too much for us.
Well, let's table it. Unless someone objects to the 24th, not the.
All right.
And you're gonna talk to Gus,
I'll send it to him. Yeah.
and you're gonna talk, and will you talk to MMA and about your concerns, that it's just way too complicated for us? And is there a motion table
So move.
to the 24th?
Second,
Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Okay. Here's another MMA, risk management. Okay, Terry, I'm gonna take the lead on this.
Okay, we gotta finish this. Well, yeah. Penny should take the lead on
No,
this.
I have corrected the easy to correct stuff. It's all been corrected. I found a lid for the reservoir, for the sprinkler system, which needs a slot cut in it.
Can we walk through this step by step?
I don't have it, but whatever.
Okay, I don't wanna just jump around, and I wanna walk through this and find out what's checked off and what isn't.
Okay, the first one was the electrical safety, and it was the microwave was plugged in with an extension cord. And Penny took the extension cord away and plugged the microwave into the wall, so that one's fixed.
Okay, so we can sign that, date it when it was completed, and that's done,
Yeah, I've already done that,
okay?
sent it to him.
Okay, and exits and egress, go ahead.
That's done.
Okay, the second one was this. Looks like the boiler room with the sprinklers,
No, it was exit and egress. At least on my copy.
Yeah.
but my pages are out of order, sorry.
The
Okay,
exits and egress,
Page
there
three.
there were a few things in the hall or on the steps, and they're all now gone. I sent pictures to Terry, and she sent them on to MMA.
So that one is closed.
Okay. Boiler room.
Well, you missed the fire extinguisher. At the
Oh,
bottom.
I don't have page 3.
You must, because you had the,
It's out of order. Okay,
I don't have page 3 either.
it's out of order, the staple out of order.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's right, so it goes from page 1, page,
2, then
oh,
4,
it
then
starts
3.
on 2, then it goes to 4.
okay, this is why I usually do this stuff myself.
I don't have a page 1.
Page one is the letter.
The cover letter.
Okay. So page 2 is the electrical, and it starts with exits and egress, and then that goes to page 3, and that's done, right?
Yes.
And then we have fire safety on page 3,
Yes.
okay.
And that is mounted now on the wall, correct?
There are actually 2, and we've mounted them both. And there are also, Phil called the other day, and so the library is now maintaining 11 fire extinguishers. And so there are 3, that's the Historical Society, Little Red Schoolhouse, and the kitchen in that building. And then there are 8 at Guilford Butler. And 4 of them are in the basement where we are not. So Brian simply went through and replaced what the school had for fire extinguishers. But so I don't know that we need to maintain 4 in the basement. I mean, it seems like one by the boiler room and one in the kitchen area.
Well, that's a different question, though.
I know, but
They're not-
anyway, we hung them up, that, took a picture, sent it in, Terry sent it along.
Okay, but if we want to find out if we have more than we need, we can pursue that, but this is about having them and not having them mounted, right?
Well, Brian bought more than the school had, so
Well, did
I
anybody,
had to get Arthur to drill holes in the cement to hang them up.
okay, so they're all hung now?
Yep.
So, that's done.
Yep.
Okay, so, but if you want to find out how many we need, how you can pursue that, I'm not sure where you pursue that, but,
Just an FYI,
yeah,
I mean, I already paid for this year, they came in March.
yeah. Okay, so then we go to page 4, which is back a page. Okay, issues relating to fire protections were identified. See, okay, where are we here? That's the sprinkler deficiency, right?
Yes,
Okay,
and the test that they need to do.
right. And you gotta, and this was supposed to have been done 2 years ago,
Yes,
but was not done. And MMA, when they come down to inspect the building, they asked what the results were. That's how we got here.
he had the report and he wanted to know if it was done.
Right. And you said, what report?
Right. That is pretty much.
So the answer was it wasn't done.
Right.
Okay. So now we need to do it.
Right,
And you got an updated price and it's $5,400 or $5,200.
5,200, yep.
Okay,
And once this quote is signed, then they will schedule us, and they're scheduling 8 to 10 weeks out.
okay. So, and of the $5,200, $2,400 is to replace the sprinkler heads that are not up to standards, for lack of a better word, in the basement.
Correct.
Okay. So Penny had asked me if I would talk to John Hanson about, do we need to replace those sprinkler heads? And his opinion was, we absolutely positively do. He said the permit indicates that the building is sprinkled, and when they gave us the permit, they are assuming that the permit was issued on the building as is, working with the systems they have working properly. Not only that, he said that that's a concrete floor on steel, how do you call it, unprotected steel trusses that will melt at a surprising, or not melt, but deform with that much weight on them at a surprisingly low temperature. And so, according to John, we definitely need to replace those. So,
Okay, but they're the ones in the suspended ceiling.
right, and they hold the fire, so what his concern would be, not someone in the basement, but someone on the first floor.
Right,
If there was a fire and the steel girders were formed, and you didn't know there was a fire.
then these need to be replaced with the upwelling ones then that will
I-
protect. the
That, I
girders,
didn't get into
because
that. I got it.
Now they're downwelling and they are through the suspended ceiling, so I don't know how those will protect girders then.
Well, if it's a fire, I assume the suspended ceiling was burns, but maybe not. I don't know. Easton got that. I don't have that much technical detail. I just asked, I did what you asked me to do.
Thank you.
So I think we need to do it unless somebody convinces me otherwise or convinces us otherwise.
But that was, not done by the school district. They're under recall and the school did not. The district did not pursue the replacement when it was free.
Right.
To replace.
Right. But that's neither here nor there because they're no longer under recall, right? Terry, didn't you say that?
No longer in recall, that, they would,
You missed the deadline. They missed the deadline.
right, they would miss it, no options.
So it's interesting, but doesn't save us any money.
No, but
We can blame the school, but, and not only that, I mean, for $2,400, I don't want to make that building unsafer personally, but. Okay. So we good with that? Terry, you all set what you need to do there?
Yep.
The open sprinkler water reservoir,
there, I found the cover. Arthur needs to cut a slot in it to accommodate a pipe and then I'll send the picture to there.
perfect. And the desk in front of the doors,
Gone.
and, whoop, I'm sorry, back to pages are wrong again. I went, I did that one. 5, work areas kept clean and orderly.
Done.
Property building, I don't know what this is.
Plants were in the basement,
No, at the bottom of 5.
yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, that's plants in
The
the
plants
basement.
were in the basement and they're saying you're not supposed to be moving them.
Right,
Gone.
and there you go. And the metal slide is damaged.
Yes, and I have, been looking for a 6-foot deck slide. And for a plastic slide, they go from, a home model for 800 to several thousand.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
There are aluminum ones that have wooden rails or plastic rails that are significantly cheaper.
So can we just do away with the slide for now
Well,
to comply with this?
this is the one that has the crow's nest and the ladder going up the back and slide down the front. It's a pretty significant piece of equipment.
No, but I meant just the slide. Can we do away with the slide? And just,
And put another ladder on it, or?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I see what they're talking about with that crack is. The
Yeah.
little finger could go in there and get ripped off.
Yeah,
I mean, if it gets worse, probably wouldn't happen right now. But- So do we have a plan?
well, I'm still looking for alternatives
Okay.
to,
So we need to continue to work on that.
and we are going to order another load of wood chips because they need 12 inches of wood chips under all the equipment.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet.
Outside.
That's all right. Oh, actually, I don't see it. Or maybe it's on my misnumber.
Well, they sent a whole 22-page report on playground safety.
Oh, okay, that's not in here. I don't see it.
But they said that, you know, as long as we keep adding wood chips and, you know, the intent was there to try to bring it up to the 12-inch standard, that they were okay with that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Penny, the wood chips are in this section.
Okay.
They were back on the previous page.
So, you know, the library has paid for the first load of wood chips, and we can afford to pay for another one, but then at some point, this is turning into recreation, not library.
Well, do we want to keep the playground?
Yes, it's,
Well, then we should have budgeted, we need to budget money for that.
well, this is our chance this year. but-
Yeah, we need someone to take over recreation, like take over the tennis court.
Well, I think it's time for this town to have a recreational committee.
I wouldn't disagree after the last week.
Well, we have the formation of one.
But let's get back to this report, if we can. We put that on the agenda the 24th. Uncontrolled hazards were found during property review. Metal windowsills have rust, corrosion.
We are just moving to the outside, the skirt of the building's been painted, and next, we're moving up to the windowsills and the portico.
Yeah, and I looked at that, and I didn't think, with the exception of one, I didn't think that was that bad. You know, I think there was one that's, this particular one they photographed, but they're all heading in that direction, I guess, but. So we're gonna monitor that,
So, we're going to scrape and paint and
yeah.
what we need to do.
And then what is this, uncontrolled hazards? Exterior brick has multiple points of crack. I think multiple was a bit of an overstatement. I saw two small areas. But we need to, they do need to be fixed. Were those ones in the front above or below the roof?
Above,
They were.
they're below the top siding.
And that's one more thing, so we need to do something there. Oh, that's still the bricks, okay. Okay, so the big nut here, at least in the short term, is the sprinkler. Yeah, and we've already got someone to take care of that. So it sounds like we're in pretty good shape, other than a few open items.
I wonder, you know, if the board votes to do those repairs and the testing to the sprinkler system, can we prepay Eastern and take it out of the surplus money that was appropriated at last year's town meeting as an expense to get into the building?
How long before they said they would come out?
8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, well, if you got them under contract, that's an obligation you really should disclose to your auditor anyways. It should come out of this year's money. I mean, if you have a signed contract with someone,
So
that's really,
I can sign this and send it in tomorrow?
yeah, and that should come out of that. Because I agree with you, we probably wouldn't have repaired the sprinklers if the library hadn't moved in there. So I agree that that's a legitimate use of that money. I don't know if anybody else sees it that way, but.
Pretty obvious to me.
Right. I mean, we probably would shut the sprinkler down, but, okay. Good. It's getting late, isn't it? Ambulance service, accept a donation from Rebecca Taylor for $200. Is there a motion?
Move to accept the donation from Rebecca Taylor.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Congratulations to the new mother. Aye.
Jeff, I.
Aye. Consider accepting the donation to the fire department and ambulance service. How do we handle that? From Michelle Taylor. How do we handle that there? Do they split it or?
It's one check, doesn't say,
I know, but you can take it and put
I
it
mean, I would put 250 in one and 250 in the other.
done. You did it, okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consider
Jeff, aye.
accepting sorry, Jeff, aye, yeah. Consider accepting a donation to the tennis basketball coach, Susan Butra, $100. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Yeah,
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff,
Jeff, I.
and we have another donation, Terry?
Cemetery, maintenance from Sandra Williams, $100. She does it every year.
Move to accept.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Aye. Okay. We had another adjustment to the agenda was to talk about the planning board bylaw amendments. Jeff, do you want to start this discussion since you were the most deeply involved with that?
Yeah, I've really got only two comments. I still think that number one does not need to be in there, should not be in there. You're making a statement that the planning board maintains jurisdiction of something that comes before it. The jurisdiction is determined by the ordinance, not by a bylaw that says you have jurisdiction over anything that comes before you. Even if you qualify it as commercial or industrial. And it adds nothing to your amendment. So I think that needs to go. And the only other thing I've got is in letter 4 or number 4, the letter of notification will be drafted by, and you list everybody in the town. That should be drafted by the planning board chair or their designee, period.
Jeff, I'm gonna ask you a question though. You had several suggestions, I believe, and this is so far apart that it's hard to follow it time-wise, but you had several suggestions in the body, not in the addendum, that I don't see here. For example, 2B, the vote of the planning court may request.
All I've got is the addendum. I didn't see the,
But you made several suggestions, did you not, to the body?
correct.
Not several, but a few.
Yeah, and I don't have those here with me.
I don't see anything on that. So that was a thought that I had. Also, I had mentioned that I don't think we should be using the word town road. A lot of our properties are not located on town roads. They're located on state roads, or private roads. So I'm not sure if the idea is to, well, at a minimum, I think it should say town or state road. But if it's on a private road, is the intent to have it at the head of the private road, or I'm not sure. And I don't think the footage would work that way if it is the intent to have it that way. I agree with you on 1. I agree with you on 4. And I thought, I still have a problem with, where is it? I still have a problem with the applicant will post a sign if requested by the South Thomaston Planning Board. I feel, and maybe I don't understand the rationale, but I feel either if you qualify for a hearing or if you qualify for notice, then you either should place a sign or not place a sign. I don't think it should be requested of some projects, but not of others, but maybe I'm missing something.
Herb's on, if you want.
Yeah. Herb, can you speak to that particular issue? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted. We didn't hear a thing. You were muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't want to interrupt you. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want, people come in and out of my office here, so I didn't want to disrupt your meeting. Yeah, number 3 came out of the planning board meeting. It was requested as an additional way of notifying people. It's only a request. We can't force them to do that. And the distances and so forth, that came out of Jeff's comments that they needed some kind of distances, where, when, so that was put in there. And the size of the sign, that was another comment. So I made a 2-foot square sign, and it had to, I tried to cover all the bases on the concerns.
Well, the other stuff I get, I do have a problem with the town road. There's a lot of projects that are not on town roads. We have a lot of state roads here. And I don't understand why.
I think what the idea was from the.
I think if you
The
said
idea is
public road.
from the main road. Public road, yeah.
That would
Okay.
satisfy. But that still doesn't deal with the private roads. If a project is down a private road and you post it in front of the house or wherever it is, no one's gonna see it. So,
Okay.
quite
I can
frankly,
add private too. I can add public and private in there.
quite frankly, I'm not hard over on the sign at all, the idea, but I do have a problem with that if we are gonna require a sign, that it's at the request of the planning board. I mean, I think it either should be required or not required. If the project is.
There's a little issue about that because we don't have an ordinance to enforce that. There's no enforcement of that. So that's why it was required.
Yeah, then I'd rather strike the whole thing. I just don't, it feels arbitrary to me.
Let me take it back to the planning board and just review it with them so they all have a notice on it.
Well, I'd like to get Jeff and Walter's thoughts on that, but it just feels very arbitrary to me.
Yeah, that was a concern going into it. I agree that you either are going to request or you're not going to request. And this leaves it optional.
Okay.
So your cousin or your brother, you're not going to request, but somebody you don't know, you are going to request. And
Okay.
that's not good.
Well, we'll request it for everybody. I'll run that by them too. And you want to strike number 1?
Yeah, it doesn't add anything to your amendment.
Okay, that was brought up by a member, so planning
I
board,
agree.
so.
You can't change what's under your jurisdiction by sticking it in the bylaws, so. I'm looking for my letter, because I had a couple other comments, or Jeff's letter, I should say.
What would you say, number 4, you had a question on, was that the one? Another one?
Jeff did.
Yeah, everything after strike, everything after or their designee,
Okay,
drafted by the planning board chair or your designee, period.
okay, fine. Good.
Jeff, you had a,
Yeah, I think the main thing was that it didn't make reference to it didn't refer to the fact that the bylaws need planning or need select board approval. I think that
Right.
was the primary issue, but I don't have it with me. I'm not sure where it is. I can dig
original-
that up again.
The original bylaws, you mean?
Yeah,
Didn't we go over that in the meeting with you that night, and we kind of agreed
yeah.
we really
yeah.
didn't make any changes there?
No, well, we were gonna make changes. There were a couple of changes you were gonna make in the basic bylaws.
All right, I have those. Okay, just send me an email what you got there, and we can rework this, and it's just minor stuff to me, you know. It's just something that we can get notifications. That was the main purpose of doing the amendment. Get notifications to the public, having some type of system, the signs, you know, that type of thing. So,
Yeah, and from our point of view, we just want it to be consistent. We don't want it to be sometimes we're gonna and sometimes we're not.
okay. The sign idea, a lot of people felt that was in the board, felt that was a good option for people that don't get the newsletter, they live nearby and they can view that. You know, if the applicant's willing to do it, we can't force anyone to do that. We can only request it. See, we don't have an ordinance or we can request everyone to do it, and most people probably would, but we can't force them. That's why the request is in there.
well, I have mixed feelings on that. It almost seems to me that if we're not requiring it, we should just strike it, but let's if you would rework it, and we'll look at it in its totality again.
I will.
I guess the other question I have is, why is this an addendum? Why isn't it just, why aren't we just modifying it?
To rewrite the whole bylaws, it's kind of built that way so you can amend it. That's why it's an addendum. If you try to interject these into certain sections, then I looked at it quite a bit, and it was you basically got to rewrite the whole thing. You know, again, rewrite the whole bylaws to make all that stuff kind of fit in the right areas and so forth.
Yeah,
So that's
I
why
guess
it's addendum.
what bothers me is, having been around here for many years and seeing administrators come and go and CEOs come and go, someone hands something out and guess what? The addendum's not attached. And, oh, you don't have the addendum?
Well,
so
it's got to be attached. You know, that's a simple thing. I think that what we're doing here is we're just mainly amending the notification process for
I know,
hearings. That's all.
doing, but I would prefer not to have it as an addendum for the reasons that I just cited. And I
Well,
think I'm more aware of how things work around this office than just about anybody in town is, with the exception of Terry. And I don't know, Terry, would you agree with me on that? You're not listening.
I mean, if you're attaching it,
I know, but you know how things, you know,
yeah.
you pass something out, I would strongly urge it to be embedded in the bylaws, but okay, we'll deal with that when it comes approval time.
Okay.
I guess that's it for now. You're gonna rework it based on tonight's discussion and
I've
go
got
back.
some notes there. You want public and private roads, you want,
You're gonna go back to the planning board?
well, you know, you want the as far as the quest, it would be for all. If we do that, the sign thing, strike number 1 and change, stop on the paragraph 4 to on designee. Yeah, I can just send it, bring it and bring it back to the board again. And I think they need to look at it. They work quite a lot on it, so I'd like to include them in that.
No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. Okay, you good, Jeff?
Yep, and I'll send him what I sent on the main body of the bylaws.
I do have that somewhere, but I'll find it too. I think I got it on my flash drive. I'll take.
However, I have to ask you, where in the world are you?
I am in Philadelphia,
Oh, you're not far, okay.
not too far.
I thought you might be in Singapore or something.
No, I came through a pretty good storm on the East Coast, so coming up. But yeah,
Okay,
it's
thank you very much.
doing well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're almost out of here. Attorney James Harlow regarding 3 Westbrook Streets. James Harlow is attorney representing Wayne Brown. He asked that he has 2 things. He asked that we file the treasurer file a record at the Knox County Registry of Deeds. Do I have that?
Corrective discharge of the lien.
Right, a corrective discharge of the lien that we had discharged before, basically saying that the lien was filed in error. And you sent it to our attorney and she invited you to do that, correct? Yeah. And so you're doing that, and you also have done that. He also, huh?
I haven't done it.
But you intend to?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then he also requested that, that the select board vote to, I don't have the letter, but, can you have all those?
Yeah.
Select board vote to, oh, go ahead, you can. My voice is hoarse.
It is Mr. Brown's hope that you will execute and file the corrective discharge and that the selectmen will vote officially to acknowledge their previous error, both within the next 30 days, which will put an end to any outstanding concern he has regarding the town's handling of this matter.
Okay, so, Terry, I don't,
Kristen's description of that, which I won't relate, was quite accurate.
okay. You were gonna look up the minutes
I put it on the table in front of me.
of what we actually voted?
Yep.
So we voted back on, what it was,
It was October 28th. Okay.
the motion was Northgrade moves and Wright seconding motion supporting placing the lien on 3 Westbrook Street. So, does anybody want to make a motion to indicate that placing that lien was done in error? That's what he's asking for, right?
Yeah. Do I have to?
You don't have to do it then. Yeah, thoughts, motion?
What was the error on placing, what error did the town make by placing the lien?
Well, my understanding is that we should have placed the lien prior to the property transferring ownership from the estate of Elsie Brown to, or whoever, I don't have the formal names, but transferring from one ownership to another ownership. And that because we did that after that transfer happened, that was an error. And made the lien unenforceable.
Okay, I'll move that that because we were not timely enough in filing the lien, our attempt to place the lien was in error.
Second. Okay. Okay, remember, we only I don't wanna make them out of molehills, but we only voted to support the treasurer placing the lien. I guess that's okay. Leave it where you are. We have a first and a second, further discussion. Hearing none. Walter? Aye. Jeff?
Jeff, I.
John? Aye. Okay. We have one item other than the warrants, right? And that is a motion to go into executive session. Or I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment of a health officer. Yeah.
Discuss the future meetings before you go into the second session.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that. Well, we have one scheduled for
The
Yeah.
18th.
the next Wednesday, the 18th now at
Yeah.
6, right?
Mhm.
We have one scheduled for the 24th, and we have one scheduled for June.
The 24th at 6.
And the 24th, you're gonna have a public hearing for the ordinances, correct?
That's right, too. Yeah. I believe the 24th is at 6. I don't think we've actually set a time, but I can't imagine why it wouldn't be. And we have one scheduled for the evening of the 21st, right? Of June. That's all I have.
Right.
We don't have one on the 7th because is that election day?
Election day?
14th is the.
14th is like.
Okay, so why didn't we schedule one on the 7th? I can't remember. And should we?
Normally it'd be on the 14th, right?
But yeah, we're
Yeah.
on the 14th.
Right, normally, but do we want one on the 7th? Do we want to tentatively schedule one? Probably should. I think we got a lot going on. Work for you, Jeff, or Lions?
Well, I've always got Lions, but I can afford to miss that one.
Okay, but not the other one. So why don't we schedule one for the 7th, tentatively? I can't imagine we're not gonna need it. Okay. Sorry about that, Penny. Thank you for allowing me. So do we have
Move will go into executive session pursuant to MSRA 405. 6A.
Is there a second?
Question.
Second.
Oh, hold on. Hang on. Go ahead, Irv. We have a motion and a second, but go ahead. You got a quick comment?
Well, this, Ted Mailer, did you talk about his?
Yeah.
Or is you gonna wait for that? Table it?
No, he was here earlier and we dealt with him and Dan, and the outcome is Dan is gonna, we approved a motion to have Dan consult with our attorney to try to sort out this whole situation.
Very good, okay.
That's Mahler.
Mahler.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further discussion on the motion to enter executive session? Seeing none. Jeff?
Jeff, I.
Walter? Aye. John, aye. Okay, recording on.
Good night.
Good night.